Be me, 17-year-old degenerate. Decide to say fuck homework, I'll roleplay instead. Scroll through a fandom forum until I find a Fallout roleplay. New Vegas, come one, come all. Decide that this couldn't be too bad. Setting is that the platinum chip was destroyed and Caesar has yet to attack the dam. Cool.jpg. I decide that maybe this is worth my while. Look through character pages. There must have been 50 different boss chapters because there were lone surviving paladins everywhere. If I hadn't scrolled down, I wouldn't have cringed at the metric fuckton amount of NCR rangers. They are more numerous than stealth archers. Every so often, I'd come across a raider or an edgy gangster. Eventually, I got to the better character pages. Among them were a few traveling traders, 2 legionaries, a bunch of random civilians, and a very feisty vault dweller who hated non-whites. Remember this guy, I'll explain later. I see that no one has yet to make an Enclave character. Dickorect.gif. Make the most original character I can for a fandom. Character is a thin male robotics engineer / spy, sent to gain support into the Mojave and find intel on the boss in NCR. Mods argue that, the Enclave is dead. I should have stated that all these faggots are probably in Antifa's gay fan club. GM thinks that I'll be a good addition to the roleplay, so he allows it. Bad idea.png. They send me the special and skill sheet to fill out. I take my time thinking about what I want. Put my specials into intelligence and charisma. Put my skills into science, repair, and speech. I see all the other filled out sheets. All of these boss edgelords put their specials into strength and charisma. How much stronger can you be if you are already in power armor? Retarded.pip. All the edgy kids put their skills into sneak, speech, and unarmed combat. Power armored ninja kids.bat. Among the edge, there are a few of us who aren't absolute tards. But as unlikely as humanly possible, we are the misfits. I decide I'll start off in the northern part of the Mojave. It's a hot wasteland that is not hospitable to life. I mark this down because intel. At this point, I get a gift from the heavens. Everyone got something directly from the GM. While walking through the wasteland, I come across a slightly damaged Protectron. While it has some minor damage, most of its components are intact. I find out that it's simply out of energy. After a perception check, using my science skills, and a roll of 16, I rig an energy pack for my plasma defender to be a battery for the Protectron. I insert it into the robot and, faster than the speed of light, a mod says, "You gotta roll to see if it works, bro." Fucking cucks. Roll a 10. The Protectron comes online, but only one of its arms work. God damn it. Proceed to perception check for the problem. Don't have to roll because I'm a robotics engineer. You find that until you get a fusion core, the robot won't be at peak efficiency. What in the fuck.prototype? Decide to say fuck it and begin walking south. Every so often, mods will throw a ghoul or a coyote at me, but in all, they actually don't fuck with me. After a half a day's travel, I decide to stop and rest. That is until I'm woken in the middle of the night by the groaning of a deathclaw. As soon as I wake up, I roll for a perception check. Critical success, bitch. A young deathclaw has been injured by a bighorner it was trying to kill. I make sure to put a sigh of relief into my post. I was about to shoot the Deathclaw and get it over with until I realized it hadn't been a mod that gave me this random encounter. It was the GM. I quickly go through the post again and find that the GM had kinda emphasized that the Deathclaw could not fight back. All other characters would have no reason to not kill this thing. But my character is a part of the Enclave. Guess which faction has successfully tamed Deathclaws? EvilGrinEngaged.com. I approach the Deathclaw, which is laying on its back. Sneak roll. 4. Fuck. Deathclaw sees me as soon as I move into its eyesight. Thankfully, it doesn't make a move on me, but it does bare its teeth and swipe in my direction. I look at it and do a perception check on the wound. 13. From what I can tell, the beast is not mortally wounded, but I can't tell how deep the wound is or how long it has been wounded from where I am. The obvious thing to do is get closer, right? Nah, fuck that shit, bro. I go back to my bag and start looking through it for a stim pack. I only had the one stim pack, so I had to make sure this was worth it. I go back to the Deathclaw, and it's clawing at the Longhorner. Still pissed.webm. As a person with high intelligence, I know that Deathclaws are very smart animals. I do not approach the beast, but I make sure it can see the stim pack I have. I motion the stim pack as if I'd be sticking myself with it. Roll for an intelligence check on the Deathclaw. Fucking critical success. The creature stops baring its teeth at me and watches without emotion as I motion with the stim pack. I roll to see what happens if I approach it. Roll a 3. Deathclaw jumps up and almost charges me. Perception check on wounds. 17. Deathclaw falls down. I start approaching the Deathclaw and watch as it sprawls itself on the ground. It writhes in pain for a while. This is my chance. Do a speed roll. 13. Get really close to the Deathclaw. Stab the stim pack into its back and let the fluids of faith flow. Get away as fast as possible. I do get a small slash on my calf as I run away, but nothing to worry about. After a few seconds of the Deathclaw being confused and painless, it stands up and looks at me. I roll to see if it attacks, runs away, or stays with me. Roll 12. Deathclaw runs off into the night. Wow, that was cool. A good waste of a stim pack. I decide to go back to sleep. Walk past Igor, the name of the Protectron, and lay down. Fucking Deathclaw ruined my night and almost made me shit myself. At this point, the mods are wondering what in the fuck the GM is doing. But it's clear that due to my character being the only bad guy, I should get special shit. Cool. Everyone's gonna kill me. Wake up the next morning and start hiking. Walk past the carcass of the Longhorner and get a foul stench in my nostrils. Get a closer look at the dead creature. Something had pissed on the Longhorner to mark its territory. Very obvious that a Deathclaw was around somewhere. Do a perception check. 15. I see a few large footprints, but nothing indicating that this wasn't from the night before or what direction the Deathclaw ran off to. I should make it clear now that this roleplay was, quote, hardcore. If you were killed, you were dead. There was no getting resurrected or saved by a miracle. Unless a doctor was on standby to see to a non-fatal wound, you're dead. So fuck that to staying in the wilderness. I made a roll to see if I could find any nearby rolls, and with success I found a highway to the southeast. And with that highway, I found chem-crazed cockblockers. This time it wasn't a random encounter. It was me walking into another player's random encounter. In the distance, I saw 6 fiends standing around a single person, who I couldn't see from my position. Decide I'll get closer to see what's going on. Do a sneak roll. Critical fucking fail. Igor trips on a rock and makes a loud crashing sound. God damn it, you retard. While Igor is getting himself up, I pull out my hunting rifle and take pot shots at the fiends that are now sprinting at me. I pop one in the chest before they get too close for long-range weapons. Igor is up and shooting with his good hand. I whip out my plasma defender and blast a fiend in the face. Got some goo on your face, .jpg? No more fiends coming from my direction. Turn around and see a fire axe buried in what would be Igor's chest. 2 fiends are okay. 2 dead. 1 injured. 1 with the other player who is a hostage. Well, fuck. I start shooting rapidly with my defender while trying to keep them far enough away from me. I'm able to injure one of the cunts before I fail an agility roll and trip on a rock. I am Igor.gif. I'm laying here trying to get up, until the fiend is standing over me with his big fucking fire axe. Are you ready to die, you fucking cunt? Oh shit, this is the end. Do an emergency roll and get a 13. GM steps into the engagement. I see that he is typing. I should let you know that the GM does all the player killing, and so far 3 players have died. Prepare to be split like firewood. Out of the darkness shall rise a light that dwells. Peter braces for the impact of the melee weapon when out of the silence of the wasteland emerges the blood-curdling roar of an angry beast, one that sees one of its own in danger. What in the fuck? Out of fucking nowhere, the Deathclaw I saved pummels the fiend and proceeds to tear him in half by his torso. Keep in mind, young Deathclaws are the same size as humans and still much stronger. Stimpak used correctly. .webm. I'm laying here on the ground, pissing myself while a Deathclaw is murdering and biting chunks out of fiends. All of the players at this point, except the non-edgelords, are getting madder than hell in the Ook chat. GM just says that if you feed a dog today, it helps you hunt tomorrow. GM is a real nigga. A few players stay mad, but in reality, it's just a young Deathclaw, right? Back to the roleplay, and I'm just flabbergasted by the current turn of events. After the Deathclaw gets done chowing down on fiends, it approaches me. Fuck bro, you're still hungry? .html? It stops in front of me and does a poking motion at its wound. No way. This thing isn't gonna kill me. This bastard remembers me. Slowly stand up and back away from the Deathclaw. The Deathclaw bows its head and slowly steps forward every time you step back. Decide to do a tame check. Wasn't even sure if I could. GM makes an automatic critical success out of it. I just got a Deathclaw as a pet. Easy boy, just stay calm, alright? Stop looking at this big sexy beast and walk over to Igor. He's pretty fucked up, but it is only wiring and hull damage. Easy fix with my skills. Remember about the hostage and turn to look over to where they were. Both the fiend and the hostage are still there. I can tell who the hostage is now. Fucking vault suit. It's the racist vault dweller. My inner Nazi tells me to get my ass over there and help out. Start walking over and the fiend drops his baseball bat. Hey man, just keep that monster of yours all cool, man. I'll be chill. Look back and see the Deathclaw eyeing the fiend carefully. I was looking for a new boss anyways, man. We were only taking this guy hostage because he called me a nigger. We weren't gonna kill him, man. Watch as the vault dweller shakes loose of his constraints, picks up the bat, and does a strength check. 16. Hits the fiend one time in the head and sends him to the ground. continues beating him until he's dead. Hi, I'm Conrad. At this point, people in the Ook chat are getting all mad that Conrad didn't die. No one except a few, including myself, liked his character. He was blonde-haired, blue-eyed beast of a man that beat the hell out of people but was elegantly polite to whites and Asians. So they had you captive for being a racist? They had me captive because I offered to trade my Pip-Boy for their nigger. Apparently it wasn't for sale. My character laughs, and so does Conrad. The Deathclaw cackles. We both realize the Deathclaw is still right behind me, watching Conrad's every move. So you have a pet dragon? Well, it doesn't have wings. What is it? My character just looks puzzled and scratches his head. It's called a Deathclaw, and it kinda just likes me after I helped it last night. It's very smart, so I guess it sees me as an ally? Cool. I'm just glad it's not any bigger, or it might eat me. Haha. Yeah, it's only a juvenile, I think. My people used to raise them as frontline assets. Conrad just gives my character a look of total fear. They get bigger? My character turns and looks at it. Way bigger. After we go back and forth a while, I decide I'm gonna go and try to fix Igor. Do you mind if I come with you? As you can tell, most people around these parts aren't so friendly. Yeah. Considering we were the two most hated people in the roleplay, we kinda talked it out in the PMs how we should travel together. We spend a few hours fixing Igor, and by the time he's up and running, it's midday and the sun is blazing. Me and Conrad are thirsty. Igor is retarded. And Richardson, the Deathclaw, is picking human leather out of his teeth. After taking 10 minutes in-game to figure out which way is east and west, we begin to head west up the road until we find a shack. Do you think anyone is in there? Does it matter, Conrad? We're gonna die out in this heat, and Igor is too retarded to go get help. Instead of doing the smart thing and knocking on the shack door, Conrad kicks it in and we send Igor. Igor, of course, walks in and says in a monotone voice, "All clear." Conrad walks in first and absolutely loses his shit. Dude, look! A Guns and Bullets magazine. We spend a while looking through the shack. A few beers, a bottle of liquor, and 6 Nuka-Colas later, we are sitting around like kings. Do you think there's any food around here? Look around for food. Perception check. Fuck you, no food. Nothing here, but I got a few things in my backpack. Conrad nods and walks over to my bag and starts going through it. He does a search check and rolls a 17. Not only does he find food, but he also finds my Enclave uniform and armbands. You said your people tamed Deathclaws. He pulls out an armband. Are these your people? My character is obviously rocked by the realization that this guy now knows that I'm an Enclave spy. I stand there for a second about to shit my pants when I realize that this guy is a vault dweller. He's got no idea what the Enclave is. I'll be fucking fine. Yes, we're called the Enclave. We're the remnants of the United States government. I like you, Conrad, but you can't say anything to anyone. Factions have sprung up all across America that would kill me for what I am. Conrad gives me a 1,000-yard stare and slowly slips the armband over his left arm. The white stars are as bright as Richardson is deadly. You saved my life, Peter. I was taught as a young boy to love my country, and it will love me. It's no coincidence that if you are the United States government, that you saved me. Maybe it was a message from God. I've always been patriotic. And in my hour of need, America sends me a monster, a man, and a robot. I'm with you, brother. My face when we became a little more liked in the roleplay for all this brotherly love. My face when someone knocked on the shack door, scared the shit out of us, and Richardson woke up from his nap. Both of us panic, IC, and OOC. It wasn't a random encounter because neither Ahmad or the GM made the post. See, GM posted the character sheets, and unless you specifically read posts, you don't know who's who. So this person knocks on the door, and we are panicking. I whisper to Conrad, "Take off the goddamn armband." Igor is retarded, so this happens. "Sir, it seems someone is at the door." We get ready to open the door when I realize Richardson is breathing heavily and has his teeth bared. Perception check, bitch. I put Richardson in the bedroom and tell him to please stay. Commanding a Deathclaw was a no-go. I walk over to the door and breathe. I slowly grab the doorknob and realize it was kicked in. Door is broken. Strength check, 1. Fuck.gif. I do get the door open, but I also tear it off its hinges. Well shit, at least we have that taken care of. Oh look, an NCR Ranger fully kitted and staring at me through the iconic Ranger gas mask. Is there a reason you're in my shack? Speech check, 18. Oh, this is your shack? We found the door almost off its hinges. Sorry about the door, by the way. Before I could make a gesture to Conrad, he pokes around the door and does his friendly greeting. "Hi, I'm Conrad." The Ranger pauses and pushes his way into the shack. "You should know that this is NCR property and breaking in is a federal crime." Dude completely ignores the speech check I made. "Well, see, we didn't break in, yeah. Save it for the judge. Deactivate that robot and get on the..." He sees Richardson peeking through the doorway at him. Panic.Pip-Boy. Without even the slightest thought, he draws his revolver and takes a shot at Richardson. Misses. Conrad does a strength and accuracy check. 15 and 11. Punches the Ranger in the neck and sends him to the ground. Ranger shoots at Conrad, misses and hits me in the gut. Richardson Rage Mode.exe. Richardson goes full fucking beast mode and charges at the Ranger. I can't see the terror on his face, but with all his screaming I can visualize it. Right before Richardson can get to him, I scream out to him, "Richardson, stop!" Surprisingly, the GM doesn't do anything except say that Richardson stopped in his tracks, snarling at the Ranger as he listened for an order of attack. Conrad looked at me confused. "What are you doing? He just fucking shot you. We have to kill him. If we let Richardson kill him, someone will be wondering why a Deathclaw would be in a fucking shack. Then they might see Richardson and know it was us. If me or you kill him, then we would have to hide the body, and that'd take too long." I paused to hold pressure on my wound. We gotta get him somewhere where he won't be able to follow us, and we won't get blamed if he dies. After a few more minutes of minuscule delegating, we tie the Ranger up, disarm him, and take everything worthy of stealing and tie him up. "Peter, can you walk?" "Fuck no, PNG. I end up using Igor as a walker, but since he is retarded and walks like I'm not there, we walk out of the shack to find a dozen legionaries and 2 centurions. "Halt, profligates. Fuck me.web. My character is injured, so all I can really do is tell Richardson to stay chill. At lightning speeds, me and Conrad PM each other back and forth talking about what to do. "Shit nigga, I'll guess we'll halt.jpg. We mean no harm to the servants of Caesar. We only wish to go in peace." And before metagame, my character was well versed in major factions. And yet you've gotten yourself shot, have captured our prey. You bring a war beast with you, and yet you pronounce to only want peace. Of course, we had to run into the only 2 Legion characters in the roleplay. Conrad decides to speak up, and he does so with the utmost bullshittery. This guy just attacked us out of nowhere. You don't even have to worry about the Deathclaw. It's a harmless beast and won't harm anyone unless someone attacks its master. Fuck, that's cringy. But Conrad was really trying to bullshit us out of the situation. Fine, but you must relinquish the ranger to us. We have been hunting the degenerate for some time. Guy sends a few legionaries over to take the ranger away. Initiate lightning speed PMs.webm. I told Conrad to let them take the ranger. We already had his shit. It is only appropriate that you are well compensated for capturing our prey. Caesar would insist. Me and Conrad weren't gonna refuse payment for a faggot that tried to killing Richardson. We dare not use these forsaken technologies. The Centurion approaches me and hands me 3 stim packs, which I later learned he had stolen from a NCR trooper squadron. Also, I humbly ask that you use this. He hands me a single-shot flare. Yeah, you know what's happening. If you are ever in need of help, servants of Caesar are willing to help enemies of the NCR. Me and Conrad are ecstatic in PMs. We just got the Legion on our side. The most hated people in this RP are now all pretty much watching each other's back. Couldn't be more coincidental. I later learned that the Ranger was metagaming us and following us. Legion bros were looking for a reason to meet us, so the Ranger was stupid enough to do so. After he gives me the stim packs and the flare gun, he gives Conrad a purse of denarii. This ain't Mountain Blade.scroll. We watched them crucify the Ranger. Yes, they did crucify the Ranger, and they insisted we stay to watch. A few mods pitched a bitch fit, but the GM said that it would happen in the game and in real life. So Douche Dick lost his life and his character. I didn't find out until later, but because Dick had died, he made a new character. A boss knight. Yeah, gay, I know. We decided to spend the night in the shack, although in game we thought it was a bad idea to stay in the shack of the man we just sold to the Legion. My wound isn't terrible, but it takes time for the stim packs to really take effect. Douche Mod says I gotta use 2 of the stim packs. One for the blood and infection, one for the healing. Yeah, fuck that guy. We end up only having 1 stim pack left, so we decide to save it. The next morning we get ready to leave and we hear the Ranger outside mumbling. He's still crucified and the Legion is gone, but instead of just dying, he rolled for a strung out death. 15, I think. He pretty much begged us to save him, that he could give us a good deal, saying that we wouldn't be executed for helping the Legion. I'll give the guy this much. In the end, he actually did play well at playing his character. Conrad gets a terribly beautiful idea. Conrad whispers in my ear, "What's a better way to suffer than to know his greatest enemy was just within his grasp?" And he failed. See, we knew this kid was edgy, and we knew this shit would make him engage in an edgy death. My character smiled and pulled a black beret from his backpack. "Look at this and tell me what you see." He did the cringy, tired look up, like trembling and his eyes were half open. When his character figured out it was an Enclave beret, he apparently had some newfound strength. The Enclave is back? That's impossible. No. I laughed really hard, IRL. You wouldn't think we'd come back after the shit we had to endure, but we are. Conrad at this point walks up to him and cuts one of his leg arteries to make sure he dies. No chance he could oust us. Conrad looked over at me and said, "For the Enclave. Before you get all frisky with me, we did this to trigger the other players who were reading. We knew they liked the story of a righteous hero hunting down bad guys like me and Conrad. Fuck their concepts of good and bad. We're the Enclave. After we decide to hit the road, Conrad asks what the US government is doing in New Vegas. I explained that in the past 50 years, the Enclave has lost a lot of power throughout the US. Factions like the NCR and Brotherhood were acidic and terroristic. On one hand, you had the NCR who attempted to steal the rightful place of the Enclave. Then you had the Brotherhood of Steel who would kill you and your family if you had tech they wanted. This seemed like bullshit, right? But unlike the edge masters of the roleplay, Conrad was really doing well at roleplaying as a vault dweller, someone who didn't know shit about the real world. We spent that day marching south. Every so often a mod would throw some rad scorpions at us, but it was relatively quiet until we got to Camp Golf. We were a good ways from a perfect eyesight roll, but Conrad got a good enough perception roll so that he could see figures in NCR armor and Brotherhood of Steel armor. I didn't know in character what was happening, but I did go ahead and read some other posts. Apparently some boss edgelords got together and thought they'd attack Camp Golf. I would think that this is good for them, getting out of their one-man bunkers and all. But they were having a monologue war with the NCR, literally just going back and forth about who was morally right or wrong. Edge kids were being edgy and we had a seat to the show. Here's where it gets spicy. One of the elite ranger snipers spots us hiding behind a broken car a few hundred miles away. Doesn't perception roll, doesn't get out binoculars, doesn't even use the scope on his rifle. Just yells out in the next post, "Hey, I see some people over there." At this point I'm healed up to full health. Conrad is using the dead ranger's rifle and pistol. Richardson is hungry, and Igor is retarded. Me and Conrad are only equipped enough to take down maybe 2 players. Richardson can probably kill someone in power armor before being killed himself. And Igor may be able to avoid friendly fire. We don't stand a chance against 4 players, let alone a dozen boss and NCR edgelords. Speed roll. 16. One issue in this roll. We realize Igor is slow as fuck. Oh no, Jeff. Thankfully, the other players didn't sprint at us, but they began steady walk towards us. We had maybe 5 minutes until they got to our location. We PM back and forth while the edgelords get their posts in. We have an idea to surpass the Metal Gear. Our turn to post and shit gets real. I quickly take the higher functioning parts out of Igor so that he no longer has the function of walking or rotating. I take off his non-working arm, and by the time I get done salvaging parts off of him, at Mach speeds they've cut the distance between us in half. Hurry the fuck up, Peter. Should I start shooting at them? No, what the fuck, those rangers are trained marksmen. Roll for an action. Critical success. After all is said and done, I give some last words to Igor. Love you, little buddy. For the Enclave. For the Enclave, sir. Me, Conrad, and Richardson run as fast as our 16 speed roll will take us. Behind us, we can hear the NCR and boss yelling for us to stop. Yeah, sure. 2 groups of mortal enemies would tell us to stop instead of killing each other. We get away pretty quickly because of Igor's sacrifice. We hear him blasting his little laser up until we hear a shot ring out and end his little robotic life. Brings me to tears knowing that he sacrificed himself to save us. But his sacrifice was not in vain. You see, my character is a robotics engineer. I repair, put together, modified, and jury-rigged robots. Igor would not go out as just a one-armed Protectron. The corner kids didn't roll very well for speed, and when they did, the GM said we were already too far away, especially since Igor slowed them down. So after they killed Igor, or so they thought, they sticked around to see if we left anything behind. They didn't find anything except for a few bolts I dropped while salvaging Igor and our footprints. They kept on talking about how that was weird of us to run away. One of the rules in the roleplay was not to avoid RP unless you had a reason. They thought they were being cute by throwing some shade at us. It wasn't until Igor said, "For the Enclave," that they all, in unison, shit their pants. What happens when an energy pack is overloaded? Well, you have something like a grenade, but you need shrapnel to do any real damage. Well, guess what the energy pack was overloading inside of? A protectron that was now rendered useless due to them shooting it. What happens to a military-grade protectron when it's rendered useless? It clears its memory and self-destructs its CPU. Guess who connected the CPU to the overloaded energy pack? This guy. The energy pack that I used as a battery for Igor explodes after letting them know who his masters were. Let's just say the entirety of Igor's body was shrapnel, and it fucked them up. They all have to roll to see how hurt they are. Mods take sides. Most got off scot-free. A few hurt, but 2 rolled a 19 and 20. We just killed 2 heavily armed NCR troopers with a protectron bomb. Somebody was pissed. Somebody bitched to the mods. We run for about an hour, slowing down into a jog every so often. In our panic, we ran in a random direction. It wasn't until I checked my Pip-Boy, asked the GM where we had run off to, that I realized that we had run so far west that we were only a few miles south of the strip. We were tired, thirsty, and Richardson was hungry. I'm pretty sure we spent about 2 hours just trying to regain our energy after running so much. After regaining enough energy to walk, we began marching to west. If we could get to the mountains and keep them on left or right, we could run and hide if shit got serious. The trek would take a few days, but since Igor had been killed and those corner kids chased us, we had no other choice except to keep moving. It was nearing the end of the day when we started seeing smoke coming from a few miles west. In most situations, I wouldn't dare approach smoke, meaning raiders possibly, but I was sure if they were raiders, we could deal with them, especially with a Deathclaw on our side. We get close to the smoke when we realize it's not raiders. The smoke was coming from 5 different crucifixions, all burning their captives. It was our friends from the Legion. Out of fucking nowhere, one of the Centurions pops up. "Good to see you, friend. Do you like what we've done with the degenerates?" Apparently, he had a 16 sneak roll. Fucking sneaky bastard. We did a little small talk while the other Centurion and the NPC legionaries showed up. Conrad's character didn't know anything about the Legion, but they didn't attack us and I hadn't mentioned them. So what'd they do? Like, are they just chemheads too? The Centurion gets kinda edgy and laughs maniacally. These degenerates are scum that broke out of the NCR prison. They've been attacking traders, killing innocents, and obstructing our justice. This little farm they occupied belonged to the occupants they felt they needed to murder. Conrad was obviously pro-Legion at this point. So is this what you do? Go after murderers, thieves, and criminals? The Centurion gave a confused look at me, then back to Conrad. Yes and no. Our mission is to kill NCR scum wherever we find them. Enslave or recruit whoever is willing to bow to Caesar and, well, yeah, kill degenerates whenever possible. The Legion boys were not ready for Conrad's take on being an ignorant vault dweller, but they liked it. The Centurion looked over our group and realizes one of us is missing. "Where's your robot?" I look at Conrad, then back at the Centurion. "We lost him this afternoon. NCR and Brotherhood of Steel were chasing us, so I got him to slow them down while we got away." The Centurion nodded and looked over at the burning crucifixions. "While you lost a man, we gained one of our own." He motioned for someone dressed in a prisoner uniform to step forward. "He was imprisoned with these degenerates and waited until the time was right to call us in for an ambush. He's my blood brother, and we found him because of you four. 3. Me and Conrad are the confused ones now as the Centurion goes on to explain what he meant. "You see, I thought he had died to NCR torturers long ago. Yet after you gave us the Ranger, we found out that he had been stalking these degenerates before chasing you. We of course take every opportunity to make examples of people like this. When we got here and began watching them, I realized he was my brother. This must have been what the GM gave them as a gift. We got him alone and told him we were here for him. And this morning we slaughtered the degenerates, as you can tell. We looked the guy's brother over and we can see that he's no regular prisoner. He has scars and tattoos that you'd most likely see on a follower of Caesar. Listen, we can't take any more men on into our cohort. We're too large as is, and well, I have an idea. At this point, I'm yesing as loud as possible IRL. I know what's about to happen. I want my brother to go with you. He'd be safe with you 3, especially with that beast of yours around. He can hunt, navigate, and track for you. As long as you don't treat him as you would a slave, he'll be a good soldier for you as well. What do you say?" "Well, I think me and Conrad would be honored to bring on a follower of Caesar. If he can be discreet around our enemies, then I agree." Centurion's brother is a new player who had joined the roleplay a few days after I did. Guy's backstory did not mirror mine in the slightest, but he was a spy like me. I was captured for stealing food from an NCR camp. They had no idea that I am a follower of Caesar. They would have hanged me. Then I guess we accept your gracious offer. Move in for a handshake. The Centurion does a forearm shake. This was a truly cringe moment. After that, it was just me and Conrad pilfering what the powder gangers had, which was a few pistols, a broken RCW, and fuck all amounts of ammo. Remember that I haven't even asked the Legion guy what his name was. Decide to ask him. "So what do they call you?" "My name given to me by the Legion is Augustus Volp. This guy is gonna get me killed. Jeff." We decided to spend the night at the farm, the one the powder gangers took over, because fuck traveling. JPEG. While we're all drinking and eating what the gang had, Augustus pipes up about Richardson. "So how did you tame a beast such as that? Great things could be done if we had those in the Legion." Me and Conrad look at each other, then back to Augustus. "I guess you could say I have a knack for getting deadly monsters to like me." After a night of drinking, snoring, and Richardson tearing up carpet, we set off east for a mile until we came across some farmers. I have to roll to see if they'd run away from Richardson. Roll a 9. Farmer pulls out a shotgun and approaches cautiously. "Why the hell do you have a Deathclaw following you around?" "Don't worry, he's tame. How about you put the gun away? You'll make him nervous." Speech check. 16. "Well, if you say so, stranger. Why are you coming around these parts? All we gets around here is mean bugs and mean thugs. Keck that, Pip-Boy. We're just traveling for the moment. Where's the nearest town? The farmer turns around and points to a set of buildings behind him. It ain't much of a town yet, but we're setting up over at Bonnie Springs. If you take the road south, you'll come across Good Springs. They have more there, but the road is dangerous nowadays. Why do I feel like he's gonna give me a quest, Jeff? We go into Bonnie Springs to find a few burnt down buildings and 4 semi-livable buildings. They had a shop/clinic, a bar/hotel, a mayor's office/sheriff's office, and a vacant shop that had been recently ransacked. Apparently, they made and sold makeshift weapons, armor, and medical supplies. Everyone in town, a grand total of 20 NPCs, gave us dirty looks as we walked through. Decide that we aren't looking to get dragged into stupid town quests, so we go to the store first. I roll for my charisma check, 13. Get a slight bonus on stuff I sell. Sell the shit the ranger had, the stuff we got from the dead powder gangers, and buy some supplies to fix the laser RCW. Repair roll not needed because fuck the mods. Hey, do you guys exchange money? I have some Legion coins I'd like to trade for caps. Store owner gives me the strangest look of all time. No, sorry, I don't think anyone would want to buy those. Me buying them from you would be useless. Mod doesn't even let me do a speech roll. We leave and head over to the bar. As soon as we walk in the bar, if you're looking for your lady friend, she's gone. We think them vipers she was after caught her. Sorry, but your friend is probably dead. We aren't looking for a lady. She said I'd know her friends when I saw 'em. She's up there in one of them caves if you want to go looking for her. We go back and forth until it's clear that the mod is dragging us into saving a player left behind by her in-game friends. Fuckme.com. How the fuck are we supposed to kill a bunch of raiders and save a girl? Sounds like a chivalry comic book. Prepare for cringe. We need not to kill the raiders, my friend. We need only to get the girl. So after we were dragged into saving a player who had recently gotten herself captured, mods were white knights and she was a real girl, the mods were pretty much saying, you better make sure this new player isn't killed, Anon, or we can make this game hard for you. What difficulty are we on now, Nuka? Basically, we knew exactly where this bitch was, and we knew there was a small group of vipers up there keeping her captive. She had come to this town expecting to get a few easy quests that would, in a in-game week or two, would get her mediocre gear she could use to join the Enclave lynch mob. Took me absolutely way too long to find out which meme character it was we were looking for. But I found it, and my cringe was sustained to minimum levels. Character name was Alyssa Petals. I think she was either 25 or 31. Couldn't care less, to be honest. I hate reading other character sheets. She wasn't armed to the teeth like all the other dickbags in her general cringe group. She was a scribe in the Brotherhood of Steel. She was searching the wasteland for forgotten but useful tech. Cringe. Apparently, something very nice, reward-wise, was promised to her if she could get rid of the bandits. I thought it over, and if White Knight mods are offering a good reward to a Brotherhood of Steel, it must be energy weapons. Energy gets me hard. Plasma. Augustus has a good point, Conrad. Me and him might be able to sneak into the cave, get the girl out, then fuck off back to the town. Conrad wasn't gonna be a part of this mission because he insisted we run in and absolutely slaughter them all. Listen, Conrad, me and you can take maybe 6 raiders in a head-on engagement. Pause to look at Richardson picking his teeth. Okay, we could take about 10, the 3 of us, but we have no clue how many are up there. Augustus does stuff like this all the time. He says that we have a better chance of sneaking in and out than going head to head with them and finding the girl alive by the time we get back. I pulled a bitch move and speech checked Conrad. It worked. Is that the cave? No. Wait, what the fuck? Where is it then? We've been up here for like an hour trying to find it. I think that may be the cave. Let's just say the initial cave was on the right. Nothing in sight. Only the darkness of the cave's insides. My boy Volt pointed to my left. A big campfire and dozens of Viper raiders putting together a makeshift camp. I roll a 6 perception. So apparently I can't see shit because when I rolled for a perception check on trying to count, I got a fat 7. Thankfully, Volt rolled a 17. Yeah, he had a high base perception. In the camp they had set up, 42 Vipers were visible. I shit you not. 42. I didn't want to go look it up, so I guessed that the GM didn't like that the mods were white knighting, so he decided to off the bitch. Fucking Christ. Overkill. Volt looks at me and says, "Do you have anything darker?" Think for a second about my uniform. All black. Edgy. Would absolutely be godly if an Enclave super spy broke into a raider camp, saved the boss, and received a reward for pretty much stealth archering. My character goes through my backpack, pretty much a big ol' sunbitch, and start pulling out my uniform. Beret, black military hiking boots, black cargos, light Kevlar jacket, black gloves, and a compression shirt with a big fucking E on it dead center. I felt like I've just broke the barrier into the cringe epicenter, but it feels good to be myself, an absolutely unironic edgelord. They told me that you were dangerous to our enemies, but I had no idea you belonged to the tribe that even Caesar avoids. Pretty much saying, I ain't looking for in-game character issues, nigger. Let's fuck shit up. So with that, we're off to the cave. Viper fags didn't build a wall around their encampment, so sneaking in was an easy roll. Sneak roll 10, plus 5 for dark clothes, bitch. Get in with no one really seeing anything. Volt decides to kill 3 raiders because why not? Pew pew 1 through his makeshift pillow. Volt stabs 2 in the neck with a spear. Sneaking gave us plus 10 on attacks. All our rolls were high. Once we get in the cave, we find 10 more Vipers dispersed so that we cannot, without retarded high rolls, sneak past them. Fuck.jpg. Retarded idea comes to mind. What if we shoot one of our guns and draw them out of the cave? Looks at me like I'm retarded and PMs me to change my post. What if we throw a grenade as hard as we can towards the other side of the camp? When it explodes, we hide and wait for these guys to run by. Retarded idea, but let's try anyways. Volp has a 6 base strength, so he's gonna throw it. Give him my only plasma grenade. Fucking critical success. The grenade lands just at the makeshift camp's edge. Fucking boom. More goo on these Viper fags than on an Asian chick during a bukkake. The guys in the cave bust out in a full sprint, don't even fucking notice our giggling asses. After they're all gone, we hit up the mods with our speed rolls. 14 and 17. We be cruising at Mach speeds through the caves. I'm taking the lead. Every so often we have to roll for a sneak, because a few niggers are still here. But we keep getting mediocre rolls. Finally get to the end of the cave system, and we find a sacrificial blood pit. I shit you not. Ahmad took 10 minutes explaining to us the most edgy thing I've yet to come by in this roleplay. At the center of the bloody and gore-covered room is a large natural hot spring that has been emptied of water. What it was replaced with was the blood of hundreds of men, women, and children. Almost too hot to touch. The blood pit was obviously cultic. What the fuck, Pit Boy? On one side of the room is a shitty shack made out of bones. Tied to the shack is the gagged and beaten boss bitch. She's knocked out right now, but she'll be up and running in about 5 minutes. Do a perception roll. 16. I don't really see anything other than the shack, the bitch, and the priest. Wait, the priest? In the shack is sitting an armless, legless, tongueless man-beast that only serves to be a priest to the Vipers. He moves uncomfortably in his chair as you advance toward him. Youth Darth Intwer, the Holy Plath? Audible kecks at this point. Shall we kill him in the name of your Enclave, or for the Legion? At the word Enclave, Boss Bitch is awake and apparently trying to break out. We watch for a few turns as she keeps rolling, but only receives -10 to her rolls for being gagged, beaten, and chained. How about we just piss off the Vipers and drown their god or whatever in the blood? Volt PMs me and says, dude, you're such a fucking monster. Walk over to the weird paraplegic nigger. Pick up the fucker. Walk over to the blood pit. Gently place him face down in the pit and pat his back gently until he stops struggling. Well, that's done with. Untie the girl, Volt. We better get out of here before the snake cunts decide to come check on No Limbs, the pirating priest. Volt unties the chick and somehow she has newfound strength. What the fuck is the Enclave doing in the Mojave? Too easy. For one, saving your ass from rape and eventual sacrifice to the blood gods. Conrad PMs me, fucking wrecked. We spend a few turns just arguing back and forth. Like all boss cucks, this bitch has a pre-created hate for the fascist, xenophobic, transphobic Enclave. She obviously hasn't read any of mine or Conrad's posts. Doesn't know that we've not been harassing innocent people or attacking boss/NCR. We've been running all over the wasteland trying to stay away from them. I should mention that although our in-game actions were not bad or necessarily uncalled for, the mods and cucks that we killed absolutely ass-blasted our reputation in the Ook chat. There was a faggot mod who liked to play as chicks who knew me from another site, leaked all of my role plays. My face when I'm too fashy for regular goyim. So what's the plan on getting out of here? You know they have like an army, right? No shit, bitch. We snuck in on our own accord. We can sneak back out. Just don't do anything stupid. We each roll for sneak to see how well we could make an escape. Boss bitch rolled better than me and Volp. What? Our rolls are high enough that only one Viper nigger sees us. Volp decapitates this guy with a spear throw. Yet I shit you not. Credit him. Once we get to the entrance of the cave, we can see that the Viper tards are still trying to figure out why their friends got bukakied. Roll another sneak. Boss bitch fucking crit fails. Half the camp hears her trip on a tent spike or something. Well shit, speed roll. We all get 15 to 19 because shit, the roll gods didn't forsaken us. We nope right out of there in record time. But they know that we were there. That's no good because what if they come looking for us with a fucking army? Well, time to nope all over the Mojave. We get back to town and Conrad is being yelled at by some NPC because he got in a bar fight and brutally beat a man and stole his money. I PM'd him later and asked how much he got. Walk up to the NPC and speech check. 19. Well, I guess the guy your friend beat up was causing a lot of trouble anyways. Here, this is for not killing the guy. Gives Conrad 25 caps. Fucking what? I see you got the girl back from the Vipers. Any trouble? They might have seen us, but we outran them by a mile before getting back to the town. We do a little idle chatter, tell Conrad about the blood pit, disappointed that he didn't get to see it, but he was glad that we drowned some weird priest. Had a good laugh while the boss girl was brooding about being saved by an Enclave boy. Don't worry, I changed before returning to town. I presume we should go talk to the bar owner. He'll give us something for saving this girl, right? Correctamundo, Volpe. Walk in the bar and the GM steps in to play as the owner. I see that you found your friend. Not our friend, dear. Well, I bet the mayor would be happy to thank you for saving her and getting rid of those raiders. Wait, we were supposed to get rid of them? I thought that you'd catch that if your friend couldn't do the job, you would have to. First off, we don't know her. You kinda guilt-tripped us into going and getting her. Bitch pops off. I'm standing right here, you know. I didn't need help anyways. Everyone, even Richardson, gives this chick the stank eye. Yeah, so you thought we'd be going and killing an army of raiders? The 4 of us? But there's 5 of you. Guy points at the chick. She was about to become a wall decoration and a second story to the bone shack. What? Oh goddammit.com. Never mind that. We never signed on to go and kill those fuckers. You asked us to get the girl. We got the girl. I never implied you had to kill them. GM was trying to wave us off without a reward. Stop changing the subject. We got the girl. What are we getting for saving her? How'd you even get the girl if you didn't kill them? We snuck in and out as best possible. I then fucking realized that the GM hadn't read the post about me and Volpe going full tactical mode to get the bitch. Also realized that I should have just dropped it and fucked off. Wait, you broke into the camp and stole the girl back? Did any of them see you? Here's the kicker. They saw the girl after she made a bunch of noise, but they didn't follow us. Are you fucking serious? They're gonna think that we went and saved her. Are you fucking mad? Relax. They didn't follow us. That doesn't fucking matter. We're the only settlement even minorly close to them. They'll come straight here and slaughter us until they find the girl. And that's how the cookie crumbles. We can find a way to get them to go looking somewhere else. Maybe we could evacuate the town. Oh, that's smart. Send them to go kill different innocent people. Owner pauses to sigh and rub his temple. Go to the mayor. We're going to have to organize a militia or something. We could call the Brotherhood of Steel. They'd help. Bitch is so ignorant that she thinks the corner kids are gonna help anyone except themselves to a shitty monologue session. I extremely doubt that the Brotherhood would have anything to do with a small town on the outskirts of the Mojave. Bitch tries to drop bombs on old Peter. And why in the fuck should the Enclave care? All you people do is kill and attack everyone. I should tell you that I'm 90% sure that this chick is, IRL, a fat sandwhale who loves Antifa. There were a few sympathizers among the edgelords. Bar owner looks at me confused and Conrad is about to knock this bitch off her feet. put my hand on Conrad to keep him from smacking this hoe. Because unlike your, pause to emphasize, brotherhood, I and the Enclave take responsibility for our actions. Your Brotherhood of Steel, on the other hand, take what you want and leave. Our goal is to rebuild the world and to see it to it that humanity prospers. Not hoard technology and lie about how we got it. How many innocents have the Brotherhood let die so that they could get their hands on a simple laser pistol? How about you do me a favor and fuck off? You'll turn tail and run anyways. That's all your Brotherhood does when backed up against a wall. You have no sense of duty, only a sense of greed and self-preservation. Ook chat explodes from the amount of butthurt this bitch got. The mods obviously backed her up. But the bad guys, like my boy Conrad and the Legion boys, just ignored it. Bitch doesn't acknowledge the absolute roast I dropped on her. She just turns to the owner and says,
I'll be back with who I can bring.
We'll deal with both the Vipers and the literally spats on my character, the Enclave. Conrad rolls for strength. 14. Knocks bitch on her ass. Bitch stumbles to her feet and runs out the door. Are we fucked, Peter? I don't know, Conrad. There's 4 of us. The sheriff and his deputy, maybe a few townsfolk will help out. Volt, go tell the mayor what's happening. Tell him to round up the townsfolk while we try to figure something out. After we drink a few waters and feed Richardson a steak, we go out to the bar to find Volt, the mayor, the sheriff, his deputy, and 20 scared shitless townsfolk. We'll need to get the women and children to Goodsprings. Everyone who can fight will stay. Maybe Goodsprings will send a few of their people to help out. We continue talking with the mayor and sheriff for a while until we send Conrad to Goodsprings. He had the highest agility. Do you think we should call in my brother? He could have 2 cohorts here before nightfall. That may be a good idea, but that boss bitch said she's bringing friends. They'll kill them all if they cross paths on their way here. You have a good point. What do we do if these raiders overrun us? Kill until you're enemies, until you fall. That's the Enclave way. Retreat isn't an option really, unless for tactical reasons. How does the Legion do it? You shall fall upon your sword before refusing the opportunity to buy your farm. I smiled and looked at the town. We need to set up some sort of fortifications. We have to funnel them through the town center. Sheriff, get your people to work while we find a good enough strategy to survive this. Me and Volp spend a few turns mapping out how we'll distribute townsfolk to different buildings so they can shoot from relative safety. Out of fucking nowhere, the mayor walks up and starts talking to us. Daryl, the owner of the bar, told me what you said. Are you really with the Enclave? I eyed the fatty for a few seconds before replying. I am. Is there a reason you're asking, or are you just confirming who you'll be shooting in the back later? Come with me. We need to talk. The mayor takes us to the ransacked store and walks around behind the counter. If the girl was able to get rid of those raiders, we were gonna give her this. But now we will have to use them to survive. You have to promise that you'll help us. Me and Volp look back and forth at one another, confused. We promise. The mayor opens the cash register, takes out the cash bin, and presses a hidden button. Behind him, a false wall jostles open. The mayor turns and opens the door, completely revealing a terminal and the death it commands. I'm what the fucking at this point, but the mayor just walks over to the terminal. We've known about this for a long time, but none of us know how to hack the terminal so that we can get anything working. They aren't military grade, but they'll still be a big help if we can get them working. Walk over to the terminal and do an intelligence and science check. I have an intelligence 10 in my specials, and science in my skills. Critical success. Get fucked. I'm in the console, but it says there isn't any real software. It'd all be starting off retarded and near useless. Unless... I pause and start going through my bag until I pull out a circuit board. I quickly pull off a few parts and set the board down. What are you doing? I'll use this memory drive to pretty much reformat all of these, making them useful. Stick the drive into the terminal and press a few buttons. Memory processing, memory read, memory copying, memory copied. Fast forward a few hours and we've fortified the town. It's sunset and the women and children have been evacuated to Goodsprings. Conrad returned with some bitch, a dog, and an old man with more explosives than an Enclave demolition team, and 3 farmers with shotguns. All in all, we had 18 people, including Richardson and the dog. Me and Volp couldn't really remember how many vipers we killed, but we were sure they still outnumbered us 2-1. As the sun began to fade and darkness engulfed the land, we saw torches coming down from the mountain. There are more torches people than we remembered being in the camp. Then again, we killed a priest, so I guess they might have gotten some friends rounded up. We had the settlers deployed to separate houses while me, Conrad, Volp, the sheriff, the deputy, and Richardson were all in a makeshift bunker. We had filled bags with sand and piled them facing the funneled entrance of the town. At either side we had tarps strung up. We made it seem like they were for hiding our fallback line if we had to retreat. There was at least 50 pissed off vipers, and they came straight down the road up to the entrance of the town. One of them yelled out, "We want the girl and the ones that killed our boys." The girl ran off. What about the ones that killed our guys? Conrad just couldn't help himself. How about you do me a favor and fuck right off? Fucking vault dweller Aryans. Guy doesn't even turn around, just puts his hand out. Another viper faggot put a rusty sword thing in his hand. I jump up so the guy can see me clearly in my fancy Enclave uniform and beret. If you come into this town, we'll kill every last one of you. The guy laughs it off and keeps walking until he's past the gateway of the funnel. Yeah, sure, buddy. You and what army? Too easy. I smiled at the guy and pressed a button on my Pip-Boy. On my left and right, Volp and Conrad tore down the tarps, revealing my army. For the Enclave. 12 Protectrons that had been programmed with Igor's memories unloaded in unison a volley of laser fire that killed the Viper leader in an instant. Conrad yelled out as he unloaded with his RCW. "Kill 'em all for the Enclave!" The Viper started sprinting full speed into the gunfire, and Richardson let out a beastly roar as he jumped into the fray, shrugging off any attempts at killing him as if they were nothing more than scratches. The windows on each building were broken as the settlers began unloading into the Viper army. Dumb bitch and her dog got themselves killed by trying to be a hero and ambush the Vipers. The Igors were more than enough to kill the Vipers, but by the time the smoke was lifted and blood stopped flowing, only 7 Igors still stood. A few of the Vipers who surrendered had been lined up against a wall and shot. The mayor left his building and ran up to me at crazy speeds for his fat bureaucratic ass. Why'd you kill them? We could have sold them to the NCR as prisoners. Initiate edge mode. Because I told them if they entered this town that I'd kill every single one of them. I paused to squat down and pick up the Viper leader's rusty sword. Even if I wasn't a man of my word, the Enclave doesn't take prisoners. Conrad, Volt, and Richardson mosey on over to me after they've looted all the bodies for gear. Or in Richardson's case, got a belly full. What are we doing now, Peter? The Vipers are dead, but that chick said she'll bring Boss with her. I do doubt they'd come to this town, but they'll kill us all. God knows what they'd do to the settlers here. We will have to leave tonight. She won't be able to get back here with the Brotherhood unless they have a vertibird. If they had one, we'd already be dead. I looked over my shoulder and saw the townspeople cheering as they ran into the arms of their brothers, fathers, and friends.
Beals moment. What is it, Peter? I turned back to Volpe and Conrad. A few years ago, the Brotherhood marched with an army on our greatest stronghold. They blew up the base, slaughtered everyone inside, and didn't let a single vertibird escape without a chase. I paused. Not even the ones that only had women and children in them. They attacked us because we were going to give the greatest technology we had away to the people. Freely. We were going to see to it that Washington could become a safe haven for humanity, and humanity alone. Clean water that would be harmless to humans, but would mercifully kill ghouls and mutants in an instant. At least that's what the story is. Some say that it was just gonna be a big fucking purifier. Why are you telling us this? My character wipes tears from his eyes. I wonder what would have happened if we had won. Would we embrace our brothers in arms with love? Or mourn for those who sacrificed their lives so that humanity could be brought back from the brink? That night, after everyone went to sleep, me, Conrad, Volt, Richardson, and the Igors began our journey away. Before we left, we were flanked by two of the settlers who had partaken in the defense of Bonnie Springs. Apparently the Vipers had attacked and killed the family of these two before we arrived. Now that they were dead, the Vipers that is, they wanted to join us. Apparently the owner of the bar and the mayor had a big fucking mouth and spat it off that we were the Enclave. Pretty much the reward for successfully defending the town was 2 human NPC companions for our ragtag team of douchebags. We'd take all the help we could get, and at this point we were found out, so hiding that I was a part of the Enclave was, most likely, not going to work for players. I pulled out my armbands and distributed them to Conrad, the 2 NPCs, and I looked at Volpe. What are you waiting for? I handed him an armband and he slips it on his left arm. I take my beret out of my pocket and fit it on my head. We were now repping Enclave colors in an unfriendly land. Boss and NCR were going to try to kill us wherever they could find us. First mission was to head south, get supplies, and actually build a moral fortification around Enclave. I knew what I was doing, but those fucking edgelords didn't have any idea why I would interact with NPCs. The GM got it though. We headed south. By dawn, we were walking through Good Springs. Nice little town, home to about 50 plus people. They had heard about what we did for Bonnie Springs, so to the surprise of Volt, they offered us plenty of food, water, and ammunition. Enough so that even a group of dipshits like us could hold out against the edgelords. After we left the safety of Good Springs, we were once again on the road. Mods knew that now they'd be able to hit us with some fat random encounters, but they'd have to go through the GM first. GM was an OG. While walking down the road, we start hearing gunshots from the southeast, towards some sort of airfield. We decide to leave the Igors behind because fuck, they're loud and still retarded. Each of us rolls for perception. We had a good view, so approaching was needless. I rolled an 18. Conrad got a 3 and Volp got a 12. What I could see was that some powder gangers ambushed and killed a bunch of Legion soldiers. From what I could tell, they had to be freshly trained, because they all looked young and not well armed. I checked the posters and it wasn't our Legion bros. Just some mods trying to bait us into doing stupid shit, i.e. get some of our companions killed. I have to emphasize to you how butthurt the mods were that we were growing in numbers, but I can only do it in a metaphor. Their asses were more hurt than a baboon's ass was red. I'm talking they were trying to siege the GM and get him to kill off our companions. GM was not a retard. He knew that us bad guys were outnumbered player-wise. I knew that if he saw me role-playing as an anti-hero instead of a fully edgy gas the ghouls, mutant war now type of villain, he'd throw me some bones and not let the edgelords, lefties, and NCR kids dogpile me. Mods, on the other hand, were trying to take the side of the good guys. GM made a deal with them. If they brought good random encounters to the table, he'd allow them to throw whatever they had at us. It wasn't until the powder gangers somehow saw us and started throwing dynamite that shit hit the fan. So the GM stopped the roleplay right then as I was about to roll for speed. He got so fucking pissed at the mod metagame that he banned him on the spot. The erupted in fountain of shit to challenge Hawaii's volcano, nigga woohoo. Other mods are threatening to stop helping when out of nowhere he starts banning them too. Me, Conrad, and Volp are losing our shit in the PMs. After about 2 hours, the GM unbans everyone except the mod who metagamed. GM adds me in I'll be taking over your random encounter, Anon. Go back to in-game. Rewind to us figuring out it's a group of NPC Legion recruits. We shake off the bullshit and roll for sneak. Volt rolls a critical success, so all of us move closer to the powder gangers. We're in earshot now and we can hear them interrogating the recruits. We know some Legion boys attacked our guys at the farm. Tell us where the fuck they are, and I'll tell Jerry not to rape any of you before we put dynamite in your ass. Recruits are young, like 15 to 18 young. Volps is gritting his teeth and Conrad's trigger finger is itching. Jerry is a fat black guy. I turn and whisper to the boys. What the fuck are we gonna do? Conrad doesn't even wait to answer. I say we fucking kill them all. I look to Volp. He shrugs, then nods to me. I look to Richardson, then point to the one farthest away from us. Fuck him up, Richardson. GM takes control of Richardson. The young Deathclaw slowly nods and bares his teeth in what can only be described as a strange yet humble smile that would terrify anyone it was meant to kill. My face when Richardson is sapient. I take out the Ranger's hunting rifle and aim directly at Jerry. Literally can't make this up. Conrad pushes my gun towards another guy and says, I want the nigger. Okay, guess you got the didn't do. Vault-Tech. Aim at the lead powder ganger and roll for a headshot. Fucking critical success. Blow his brains all over the recruits while Richardson bonsai charges past the powder gangers and rams the one farthest from us. The hardest shot to make. Conrad jumped from the shot and absolutely just starts unloading his RCW into the black guy. Volp takes this opportunity to throw a spear at one of the powder gangers. He misses. Our two NPCs start taking pot shots at the last three guys who've begun running away. Richardson! Big baby boy Richardson turns with a mouthful of guts. Kill! My character points at the three running powder gangers. More meat for meatbeast.webm. Richardson breaks out into a sprint, and me, Conrad, and Volp watch as he chases them one by one and takes chunks out of them. Isn't it weird that we let Richardson eat people? Isn't that cannibalism? Conrad turns and gives him a serious look. It'd be weird if he was human. A man's gotta eat. After we call over the Igors and start running through the powder ganger shit, we realize there's still 5 tied up Legion recruits. Light bulb. Volt, what should we do with these guys? You're Legion. It's your call. I hit him up with a fat PM. None of them dared speak of our brothers in arms location, so none of them should be executed. Yet they still allowed themselves to be captured. Caesar would see that they sullied his own name and needed to redeem themselves. What do you have in mind? We must see to it that they do something that would honor Caesar. They will come with us, and from now on shall wear the emblem of the Enclave. People have yet to see the Legion as anything more than monsters. The Enclave may pose as a hero to the downtrodden. One by one we uncut their ropes, and I handed out armbands to them. All of you, discard your armor and anything that could signify your service to Caesar. Here's where I got chills going down my spine. I started reading through the Ook chat and found something very entertaining. So why do you think they've been traveling around like this? I thought the Enclave would be more hostile. Not sure, but he's been avoiding RP with us and just sticks with the racist and the Legion guy. Skip ahead after my character starts handing out armbands to the Legion teens. What do you think he's up to, Boss Edgelord? He's building an army. The boss scribe that ran off to find help. I was scaring these fucking faggots. I had to be, because they had put aside their monologuing and started traveling together. NCR and boss faggots broke character and began chasing down the evil xenophobic Enclave fascists. Yeah, I was building an army. And it wasn't even done growing. Not even fucking close. We finished getting the recruits ready for travel and decided to hit the road before the edgelords had time to pick up on our trail. From time to time, Mod would throw a sneaky ant or rad scorpion our way, but with our army, it didn't even do the slightest damage to us. As we traveled south on the road, we came across a shitty little gas station inhabited by jackals. They spotted us long before we spotted them, so they booked it up into the mountains where they had the advantage. Volp eventually figured out where they had run off to, and he didn't like the spot we'd have to go to, so we'd be able to get our hands on them. They've put themselves on top of a trailer. One of them have a long rifle. He can't hit us from here, but if we get close, he'll take pot shots at us. What if we don't get closer? What if we get further away? Volp is confused because Legion Bro has no concept of strategy. They ran off as soon as they saw us. There's almost 20 of us now. Do you really think they'd remember every single Igor? All of the recruits? They spotted us and ran. Why don't we act like we're leaving? We could leave one of the Igors, 2 of the recruits, and Conrad. They'd see us leaving and don't think twice about coming down from their mountain. Conrad had been taking a shit while we kept going up the road. He had a thing for stopping to use it right before we got too close to buildings. I don't know. Something about his character not liking how unhygienic they were. Point is that he wasn't spotted by the jackals like the rest of us. Sort of makes sense, but what are we gonna do when they come down from the mountain? I'll have the Igor transmit a message to me when the jackals enter the station. Hide for as long as possible while we come back to ambush them. What if we can't hide? Wing it or whatever. Just don't get shot. Gotcha. Conrad, one of the less fucked up Igors, and 2 of the Legion kids stayed in the gas station while the rest of us grouped together and made sure the jackals saw us leaving. When we're about a mile down the road, I get a ding from my Pip-Boy. Alright, that's the signal. Let's head back as fast as posse. Fucking more gunshots start popping off than fireworks on the 4th. God damn it. We gotta move. Me, Volt, the farmers, and the recruits break out into a full sprint. It was just a jog for Richardson. It took us 8 in-game minutes to get to the gas station, and we were all fucking exhausted. We rounded the corner of the place and faced the gas pumps. The Igor we left got one of his legs chopped off and was trying to get on his feet. One of the recruits got stabbed in the gut, another had gotten knocked out. And Conrad? Conrad was between 2 gas pumps kicking the ever-living shit out of 2 jackals. 4 more laying around him dead or nearly there. I watch in awe as Conrad ducks a haymaker, parries a jab, and uppercuts one guy so hard he backpedals for a few feet until he falls flat on his back. Conrad turns to the last guy and catches a wicked full-strength punch to the jaw. Shrugs it off with a fucking grin. A grin. I go to approach and I just get met with a resounding, "Fuck off, he's mine." Shit, nigga, okay. The Jackal and Conrad circle for a few seconds until Jackal lunges at Conrad. Oh shit.avi. Conrad lets the guy put his hands on his shoulders, then, like a fucking ninja move, breaks the guy's grip and uses all of his weight to double open palm punch this guy in the chest. Imagine a football guard or tackle hitting a tall, lanky linebacker with purely his arm muscle and body weight. The guy falls straight down like a stick, gasping for air. Conrad straddles him and wraps his white hands around the guy's neck. I thought he was going to choke him to death. Nope. Conrad lifts up with his entire body and drops, putting all his weight in his hands. Breaks the Jackal's windpipe and releases his grip. Conrad falls on his back, taking in huge gulps of air, obviously exhausted from fighting off a bunch of crazy chemheads with his bare hands. I give Conrad a minute to rest while Volt tends to the recruit. He's fine. Conrad, what the fuck happened? Winged it. Conrad closes his eyes and tries slowing down his breathing. My face when I brought the most dangerous man in the wasteland to a gunfight. My face when they brought guns to a fist fight. My face when he's this timeline's version of Chuck Norris. After we gathered up the living jackals, we started offing them one by one until I get PM'd by Conrad. One of them is a new player. I checked the post logs and it turns out that it wasn't a mod with the jackals after all. It was a new player who was playing as a jackal. The fucking jackal sniper. The guy pretty much was using the gas station as an outpost to raid caravans and attack travelers. Decently edgy character page, but the kid still tried fucking with us. We get to him eventually and he starts begging for his life. Please don't kill me. I'll do anything you want me to. I be your fucking slave, just don't kill me. Kid asks for a speech roll. Pfft, yeah, sure, faggot. He fucking rolls a critical success. Well, I guess you're too young to kill, but you're still gonna pay fucking big time for fucking with us. Volp and Conrad and kecking at me in the PMs. Basically, the kid lost all of his NPC companions, so he wanted to join up with us for a while. Kid has no clue that we are the target of every edgelord in this roleplay. PM the kid and tell him this. Response is gold. Either I get beaten to death by an Aryan today or shot by a ranger tomorrow. I'll take my chances. After we untie the kid and give him back his rifle, we see to it that the recruit and the Igor are fixed up enough for travel. So Conrad, what happened? As soon as the message went through, we started hearing gunshots. Jackal kid pipes in. We just call him Jackal, by the way. He fucking started shooting us with his laser gun. When he ran out of ammo, he rushed us with a big fucking hammer. What the fuck, Conrad? Where did you get a hammer? A long silence. I found it in the garage. Did you drop it or something? Why would you fight a bunch of guys barehanded if you had a hammer? Jackal spouts off all pissy. Because when he got to around his third swing, he hit one of the pumps and broke it. Look around at the pumps. Conrad had been swinging a big sledgehammer at the guys. When he broke it, he didn't break the handle or simply knock the head loose. He shattered the metal head of the sledgehammer. How the fuck do you even do that, Conrad? Long pause. Adrenaline? My face when Conrad is Thor. After Jekyll came on board, we started talking a lot in PMs. Now that we were a group of 4 players, and I had been actively recruiting people, people were fucking all over the ook. If we were gonna plan out some strategies, we couldn't talk about it between our characters in game. The edgelords were obviously fine with metagaming, and it made no difference to them whether or not we weren't really bad guys. After a 2 IRL day deliberation, we decided that if we could stand a chance against the lynch mob and their NPC compatriots, we would have to call in the cavalry. We would have to call in the Enclave. We PM'd the GM and he was fine with it if we reasonably found a way to communicate with the nearest Enclave base. For that, we would have to find a radio station, commandeer it, and initiate a broadcast to the Enclave. It doesn't sound too hard, but there are only a few different radio stations in the Mojave, the most prominent being the one at the Strip. That was a no-go from the get-go. There were enough NCR NPCs to fuck us back into our mom's wombs. Also, I was positive that a few boss fags were up there monologuing with the Silver Rush NPCs. The only other high-powered radio station in the Mojave was Black Mountain Radio Station. Both Volp and Jackal confirmed that the station had been taken over by a group of super mutants. But Jackal told us about the trailer he and his fellow raiders had used at an emergency outpost. Apparently it had been some sort of weird ham radio setup made to listen in on and transmit messages at long ranges. You fucking what, mate? Cola of the Nuka variety? I decided to say fuck it and head up there. We call it Lone Wolf Radio. Kinda has that weird aura to it. Conrad has no chill. Were you high when you made up that stupid aura shit? We hike up to the trailer and find a truly weird setup. 3 high-powered radio beacons, 4 ham radios, and more broken hand radios than time Richardson spends picking people out of his teeth. People are chewy. What in the fuck were you Kimheads doing up here? Jackal just rubs his neck. You killed the guy who was up here, didn't you?
Conrad doesn't even wait to punch the shit out of the kid. At this point, we begin role-playing that Jackal was just a lost kid who needed guidance. Like an antisocial little brother you have to beat faggot out of. This equipment is in really good condition, but these beacons aren't really for sending messages as much as they are for receiving long-distance transmissions. Conrad steps forward and eyes the shit like he knows what it is. Maybe it belonged to a Chinese spy. Volp is just as confused as Conrad at this point because he's outside seeing what he can do to make the generator explode. Succeed, he does not. I don't think it was the Chinese, Conrad. It was probably an NCR or Brotherhood of Steel listening post. I've seen a few before, yet never with this much pristine shit. We go back and forth about how the boss rarely had any sort of ability to face the NCR in open combat, so they reverted to weak subversion tactics, such as counterintelligence listening posts. Such as this one. Eventually, I decide I'll try seeing what I can do with the setup. See if I can get any type of long-range signal out. Roll for science. Should be easy. Fucking critical fail. After a few presses of buttons and taps on the PTT button, the entire ham radio setup begins shorting out. Roll for speed. Roll a 16. Disconnect the ham radios from the radio beacons. Inspect the ham radios. They're all fucking ruined. Check the beacons. One is damaged, but the other two are fine. God fucking damn it! Freak out for a few minutes, smash the hell out of the ham radios, and even start shooting them. Eventually give them to the Legion recruits so they can make spearheads out of the metal. So what are we gonna do now? I'm guessing we can't use this stuff. We would have to get some more ham radios. I see now why it all shorted out. The ham radios had such little room for the beacons' relay power on their circuit boards that the person who set this up had to have more than one ham radio and countless shitty radios he could burn through, per broadcast or relay. We stand around talking shit about shitty radio setup until it hits me that I don't need a ham radio for the relay or broadcast. I just need something with enough processing power to make sure the output of the beacons wouldn't overload the input of the radios. By Enclave standards, I would only need a few standard CPUs. By Wasteland standards, I would need a fucking gigantic supercomputer. Light bulb. Sentry bots had military-grade CPUs. If I could use one or two of them, I could use them to temporarily begin and end a broadcast before shorting them and the radios out. Of course, this was all bullshit I was making up for the roleplay, so I would have a reason to go down to Prim and use Eddie as the processing machine for the radio setup. After all, Eddies were made for infiltration and propaganda, meaning they could receive and send radio signals of what they hear in the wasteland. An Enclave-made robot had more than enough processing power to do what I needed it to. I've decided we need to head toward the nearest town and start looking for military-grade circuit boards. They'll have the hardware I need to process the beacon's information without absolutely frying our equipment. My character pauses to look at Volt. Where's the nearest town that might have what we're looking for? Volt walks over and starts looking over my Pip-Boy map when he accidentally hits the volume on its radio. Folks, let me put on my newsman fedora here. Because boy do I got a crazy story for you. I've gotten witness reports of Enclave soldiers in a little old town called Bonnie Springs. The GM had stepped into our little navigation roleplay with a Mojave-wide message about us.
He was letting all the people know in character info so they wouldn't be metagaming if they knew about us. Apparently, in the town's greatest hour of need, these soldiers fortified it and fended off an army of, vipers. We've all heard stories about these guys, folks. In character, me and the boys are fuck yang at this point. Richardson is scratching his ass. If you don't know about the Enclave, they claim to be the last remnants of the United States government. For a long time, they kept to themselves, and when they came out, they weren't so friendly. But folks, you heard it from me first. And as surprised as I am, it seems what I was told is factual. The Enclave is, for a fact, in the Mojave. Whether or not this was a single act of kindness, or the Enclave has turned a new leaf, has yet to be discovered. If I hear anything, I'll be telling you first. Let's get back to the records. This next song is from me to you. Well, shit. The whole Mojave knew we were here and knew where to start looking for us. Now they didn't have to metagame. Peter, they're gonna start coming after us with everything they've got. An army. What are we gonna do? We will have to outsmart the bastards at every turn, and build an army of our own. I turned to the NPCs and pretty much did the whole "you're the beginning of something great" speech. In reality, I knew most of them would die. If not all of them. Staying in the mountains was a no-go if we were going to set up some sort of fortifications. And at the moment we had no strategy for outplaying the lynch mob. So our goals went like this. Recruit wastelanders, get somewhere with enough walls to fend off a lynch mob attack, even for just a little while, get the Eddie from Prim and activate the radio beacons, get a message to the Enclave. It took a few hours to rig up the beacons on wheels, but once we did, the Igor started pulling the 200 pounds of equipment while we made our way down to Prim. When we arrived a day later, we found that Prim was occupied by two groups. Outside the town was a platoon of disgruntled NCR troopers. In the town were a branch-off group of powdergangers. All the fucking players in this roleplay neglected to do the first thing you're supposed to do when you leave Goodsprings. Fucking lazy faggots. Me, Conrad, and Jackal are going into Prim while we leave Volt with the troops and Richardson. We make our way down the road until we come across a few troopers on duty. Where are you boys headed from? Oh, we just came south of Goodsprings. You heard anything about them Enclave? Nope.png. Alright, well if you hear anything, let us know.
The plan was to go and talk to the man in charge. Persuade him into attacking the powdergangers in town. If the NCR guys died, the powdergangers would be extremely weakened. If the powdergangers died, the NCR would be extremely weakened. Sounds like a good deal, right? Shit did not go as planned. As soon as we got to the middle of the NCR camp, we got surrounded by MPs. I'm thinking to myself that this is some fat mod bullshit. Then I realized that I had forgotten something. Through all of this, Conrad had worn the same fucking bright blue Vault 14 vault suit. Fuck me. Freeze, Enclave scum! One of the MPs puts a baton in my face, obviously trying to intimidate me. Mods are within their rights because this legitimately isn't metagaming, but their plan is to trap us here and wait for the players to arrive and kill us. They didn't really think it through too well. Listen, we didn't come here to start a fight. Mods were not here to negotiate. They wanted blood for us shitting on their Edgefest. MP in front of me takes a swing at my head with the baton. About to roll for a speed check when Conrad rolls for speed and strength check. He fucking crits both. Catches the baton mid-swing. MP's face when he just picked a fight with Aryan Chuck Norris. Conrad throws a lightning-fast right cross. MP is out cold. Me and Jackal roll our combat rolls. 16 and 12. We won't slow down Conrad, that's all that matters. Before Conrad can turn to another MP, he gets a glancing left jab that touches his cheek and slips past him. Initiate Operation Conrad.Grognak. Conrad firmly grips the MP's wrist with his left hand. Slams his right hand up under the MP's armpit with a deadly iron grip. Lifts the MP in the air and with a loud thud, slams him face first in the dirt. Jackal is getting his ass kicked by two guys. I'm dipping, dodging, and jabbing one guy. Conrad releases the MP he face planted, hits a full-out sprint towards Jackal. Jackal is pinned by one MP while the other is beating him with a baton. MP with the baton turns just in time to see Conrad's huge muscular shoulders slam into his gut. The MP was gasping for air after getting speared, but Conrad jumped to his feet without hesitation and kicked him in the face. When he turned to Jackal, the MP that had pinned him was now standing up and staring at Conrad. "You want some, big guy? I heard them stories about your racist ass. Mod made this MP a black guy. Too easy for Conrad." "Yeah, and they're all true. I'll carpet my vault with your black skin." MP gets ready to attack when out of nowhere, Jackal dropkicks the guy in the back. Conrad uses the kinetic energy of the guy moving forward to hit him with a full power haymaker. All that force going forward goes backwards in an instant. MP ends up on his back. Conrad looks down at him, eyes wide open and mouth gawking. Jackal wipes the blood off his face. "You killed him with a punch." I finally get done fighting my guy. He just eventually takes his beating. I walk over and put my hand on Conrad's shoulder. "You fucking clotheslined him with your fist. That's one for the holotapes." Did I mention that Jackal is pretty much the physical default version of a 120-pound soy boy? Just has enough drugs in his system that makes him feel pretty much nothing and puts the cartel to shame. After we regained our strength and after the fight, we realized that we were still in the NCR camp. It was a miracle that the troopers hadn't rushed us. We attributed this to the soldiers being too busy watching Prim or making sure no one else entered the camp. Getting out of their camp isn't really an option. We'll have to signal Volt that we need help. Then flank the soldiers wherever Volt begins his assault from. We drag the knocked out and dead MPs away from the middle of the camp and put them into a latrine ditch. Yeah, we did that. Conrad kicks the dead MP into the ditch, then turns to me. "So, how are we supposed to signal Volt?" I put down my bag and start looking through it. Realize that I fucking left the flare gun with Volt. I was about to say we could use the flare gun, but it's not in my backpack. Do either of you have any ideas? Jackal does a little daydreaming while Conrad starts looking around for anything. Then he gets a light bulb. "What about my gun?" "What about your gun?" "It's a laser gun, right? So if I shoot, you can see the laser fire, right?" "Conrad, do you really think Volp is going to see you shooting your gun? He's probably making spears or hunting down coyotes." "I don't think you get it, Peter. Volp doesn't have to see it. The NCR has to. When they see it, they'll all run back into the camp. Volt will see this and know that we've been ambushed. Best fucking idea Conrad has ever had. That might just work. We need to get into a defensible position. Once they see you shooting, they'll go lethal. Without a warning, Conrad starts shooting into the air with his RCW. His finger never comes off the trigger. After he depleted the energy pack, we start hearing yelling from all corners of the camp. Time to fucking run! Jackal hits a full sprint behind the tents. We follow in close pursuit until we see him climbing up into a destroyed building. Conrad, boost me up. Conrad pretty much throws me up to the second story. I turn around and pull him up. Conrad, why the fuck would you just start shooting without warning? Heat of the moment. Look, it worked. I look out one of the broken windows of the building to see Volp jogging down the road with everyone except the Igors following closely behind him. We look back at the latrine ditch to see all of the troopers going over the MPs we beat the shit out of. They started spreading out and trying to look for us. Some started to move back towards the front of the camp. If they see Volp coming, they'll gun him down before he can even get close. We have to distract them. Jackal takes out his 9mm pistol and loads it. Distract them or shoot at them? Fucking shoot them, you little Kimhead. Conrad loads in another energy pack and aims at the guy approaching the entrance of the camp. No, we should shoot who is closest to us. Volt will hit the ones closer to the entrance first. We don't have to worry about them. Conrad nods to me, then repositions to another window. I pull out my plasma defender and aim down at one of the men. Kill the officers if you can spot them. We want them disorganized for as long as possible. One of the troopers sees Conrad's RCW poking out of the broken window. Before he can say anything, he's met with a dozen laser bolts to the chest and abdomen. Like horses being released on a track, we begin shooting as fast as our fingers would pull the trigger, or in Conrad's case, as fast as the gun would go without overheating the transfusion chamber. Those who weren't hit or killed in the initial first few seconds scattered and ran in random directions. The troopers walking to the entrance wheeled around on their heels and ran to cover when they realized what was happening. It didn't take long for us to either shoot or scare the remaining troopers into cover. How many are left? I wasn't counting, I was just shooting. Jackal falls to the dusty floor of the building with a thud, writhing in pain. Conrad raises up and unloads into the tent where Jackal most likely got shot from. A faint scream of agony can be heard before going silent. I crouch and make my way to Jackal. Hit him in and out of his bicep. Stop being a bitch and stop screaming. It's a flesh wound. Stop acting like you haven't been shot before. Between cries of pain, Jackal raises up and yells in my face, I haven't been shot before. Push him down and pull his grip off of me. You're still being a bitch. Before I can duck back into my spot, a few shots whiz over my head. Fuck me, they're really pissed. Conrad, what's the 20 on Volp? Conrad raises up for a second, then ducks back down. Look for yourself. I move into a corner of the building where I can't be seen from my position by any troopers and barely peek the corner of Conrad's window. Volp had just passed the entrance of the camp. He went from his steady jog into a full-out sprint faster than I've seen a man run before. Richardson is already past him and in a full bonsai run at the first trooper in sight.
As Volp closes in on a group of hiding troopers, he and the recruits let out a bestial war cry.
The troopers don't have enough time to turn around before Volp is already on top of them, slashing with his machete and stabbing with his rusty barbed spear. We have to make sure the guys over there, I pointed at the troopers closest to the building, don't get any shots off at Volp. I look over at Jackal, who is writhing on the ground. I do a perception check to see if he has anything useful on him. Roll an 11. See a bottle of liquor in his pocket. Idea. Take his liquor, tear off a piece of his shirt because fuck him, then stuff it into the bottle. Do you have a lighter? He's in shock. The troopers see Volp. Fuck me, time to wing it. Shoot the fucking cloth on this thing. What? Shoot the goddamn cloth. I put the cloth over Conrad's RCW barrel. 3 shots later, it's on fire and spreading fast. Don't even wait to see if anyone is looking at the windows, waiting for us to peek. Turn to the closest one and chuck the bottle down at the corner of the nearest tent as hard as I can. As soon as the bottle smashes against the ground, it fucking explodes like a bomb. Half a dozen troopers run out from behind it, covered in fire. More are still behind the tent, trying to put out the fire on them. That was no fucking regular liquor. I look back through Conrad's window and see Volp decapitate a trooper who is trying to scramble to his feet. If the troopers aren't dead, they're on fire. If they aren't on fire, they're begging for their lives or so badly burned that they can't fight back. Before Volp can cleave another trooper, I stick my head out of Conrad's window and call out to him. Don't kill any more of them. We need to figure some shit out. Volp gives me a thumbs up, then kicks the trooper he was about to cleave in the chest. After a few minutes, Volp and the men were able to save a few of the burning troopers. We dragged the still-alive MPs out of the latrine ditch. After checking all the tents, we gather all of the still-alive troopers against the wall of the destroyed building. 4 MPs beat to all hell. 3 uninjured troopers who surrendered. 5 hurt or burned troopers. What casualties did we have? Jackal got shot and Richardson chipped a tooth.
We spent somewhere around an hour interrogating the soldiers. Apparently an order had been relayed all across the Mojave that NCR troopers were no longer to engage in hostilities with the Brotherhood of Steel. Instead, they were ordered to capture and hold anyone accused of being an Enclave agent or an Enclave sympathizer. Literally, if any player were to even mention us without a hateful tone, a mod would arrest them through NCR MPs and interrogate them. Mods thought we were trying to persuade neutral players to join us through PMs. If we can't metagame you, we'll just attack everyone who may or may not be on your side. I shit you not, a few of the strip players and 1 or 2 of the traveling traders were arrested for not shit-talking us in-game. They were winning over the people for us. After we got finished figuring out what was happening in character and out of character, we tried deciding on what to do with the NCR prisoners. You said it yourself, Peter. The Enclave doesn't take prisoners. My character was sitting in a chair deliberating on what we could do with them. Volp and Conrad were both advocating for their executions, and I wouldn't want to do otherwise. But this was no time for destroying your enemies. This was a time for politics and messages. I know you want them to die. I do too. But think about the message we could send to the Mojave if we played this out correctly. Conrad and Volp sit beside me to try and figure out my meaning. The people of the Mojave have taken notice to our actions and are completely associating all of us with the Enclave, even though among us there is only one true Enclave representative. I paused to draw a square in the dirt with Volp's spear. I cut out a small rectangle where Bonnie Springs and Good Springs would be located. If you don't know by now, I plan on killing every powder ganger in Prim, so I make a dotted line around where Prim would be. This is our sphere of influence. They know, or will know, that we aren't here to slaughter and destroy everything in our path. Mr. New Vegas is a respectable and well-known host. People heed his word with truth and seek him out for knowledge. We've been mentioned once for our good deeds, especially the Enclave has been mentioned. No doubt we've earned some goodwill with the populace, but we need to make the people look to us for protection. Most of all, we need to make people see us as heroes. Though I do believe we are heroes of a different caliber. Years of lies and propaganda have filled even the deepest ears among the American population with bullshit and villainous fantasy. Luckily, the NCR and boss have no clue as to how the true Americans won their power. Outnumbered and afraid, they played to their enemies' advantages without violence but with politics. We will nurse the prisoners to walking health, then we will send them to the Mojave outpost. While Volp leaned back, trying to take it all in, Conrad moved closer and whispered to me. But why would we do that? It could end badly for anyone we send to escort the prisoners. I smiled and patted Conrad on the shoulder. Thank you for not questioning me openly. It may have set an example of disobedience for the men. I stood to my feet and paced in front of my two companions. No matter what happens, if we go through with my plan, we will win. If our men aren't attacked, it will be seen as a metaphorical weakness on the NCR's part. We spared the lives of the NCR's finest and returned them in the best condition we could. We didn't even torture them. So when they return, they will speak of our deadly strategies and our brisk operational efficiency. I mean, who else could take out an NCR camp without suffering a single fatal casualty? Both Volp and Conrad were beginning to understand what I was going for. Volp decided to speak up. What if they do attack our men and kill them? I only smiled and turned to our ragtag soldiers who were rummaging through the NCR's bags and supplies. While it will be a sacrifice I do not wish to make, it will serve as a truth for the Mojave to behold. We will have extended a hand of mercy and possible peace to the NCR, who so readily threatens and incarcerates anyone who doesn't hate us. Our hand will be bitten by the bear, and we shall never extend a hand of mercy again. And no one will care if we slaughter 1,000 surrendering NCR soldiers. They will have openly refused our kindness and attacked soldiers who came to parley with a gift of goodwill. I paused to take in a breath of the warm evening air. Well, if they kill our men and mask it with the lie of us attacking first, NCR politicians aren't afraid to lie. I smiled and turned to Volp. We'll be sending your 2 youngest recruits. We'll call them cadets. We will see to it that they take twice as long as it should to arrive at the outpost. They will be dressed in the most obvious uniforms possible. I want to make sure that everyone they pass knows who they are and what they're doing. Say the NCR does say that our cadets attacked first. How many potential witnesses would have seen just 2 young boys guarding injured NCR soldiers? You're too smart for your own good, Peter. If you aren't careful, you'll accidentally become president someday. The 3 of us laughed heartily. That night we ate, drank, and slept soundly. For 4 months we had been on the run from the powers in this inhospitable wasteland. This was the most relaxing night in all that time, and we slept a few feet away from dead bodies. As dawn came, we were already wide awake and brimming with energy. I had made it clear the night before that we were going to attack the powder gangers in Prim and kill them all. Effectively, we would win them over like Bonnie and Goodsprings. The only issue is that we had 12 NCR prisoners to guard. Exactly how we would keep them from running away and staying at full operational efficiency, I had yet to figure out. What if we left a few of your robots here to guard them? Robots are extra trigger happy, so it should keep them in check. I shook my head and stood to my feet. Even the troopers don't know the full strength of the powder gangers in this town. We will need to have all assets under our control for this operation to be successful. Hypothetically, at least. What do you mean, hypothetically? I fiddled with my pistol, then turned to Volp. He was a semi-skilled strategist and always tried understanding the actions or tactics dictated by others. You see, if we have all our assets at the ready, instead of being occupied, we have the full possibility of liquidating our tactics and reassuring the situation as the tides of battle dictate. Volp nods and sets down a bottle of water he was sipping at. I got an idea that most likely would work, but only if it was executed correctly. We can, however, try to guess our enemy's strengths and weaknesses. One thing we know about the powder gangers is that they've been restricted to small arms and industrial-grade explosives. I might have a strategy able to nullify both their weapon groups, but we'd better fucking learn to huddle like penguins. What are penguins? Are you sure this will work? Your robots are pretty fucking stupid. I turned my head to Conrad and just smiled. We had lined up the Igors in a tight wedge formation. 1 leader and 3 on either side of him. Me, Jackal, Conrad, and the farmers were inside this open wedge. The plan was to leave 2 of the recruits with the prisoners. Volt would ambush the powder gangers from the south with Richardson while we hit them from the west. I could easily repair any minor damage to the Igors, but I couldn't replace human lives. As we began moving after we had already crossed the bridge, we heard the confused talking of the powder gangers. Initiate Propaganda Protocol 34. The Igors began broadcasting a recorded file off in unison. We are the Enclave. Stay in your homes. The threat will be neutralized momentarily. God bless America. I turned to everyone with me and said, on the 3rd time the audio loops, rise up and start shooting these fuckers. As the 2nd loop came to an end, Igor started shooting at the powder gangers. They in return began shooting back. 9mm ricocheted off of the hull of the leftmost robot, and one of the farmers almost pissed himself. Calm it down, just wait. 3rd loop came near its end, and in the final syllable we all raised up and unleashed hell on the nearest of the powder gangers. One of the farmers blew one guy's head off. A few seconds later, they were all dead. Jackal darted out from behind the protectrons and over towards a building's corner. I only realized after he took the kill shot that there was a sniper on top of the hotel directly ahead of us. Good shot, kid, but next time call that shit out so one of us don't get shot. Jackal just nodded at me and got back with our wedge formation. I scanned around the streets, surveying the amount of dead bodies. I turn to my left and see Richardson in a dead sprint towards us. Behind him is Volp and the recruits. I may have forgot to mention, but it had been 4 months since I adopted Richardson. In that time, he's grown exceptionally larger. Before, he was about my height. Now he stood 2 or 3 feet over me. Did you encounter any powder gangers from the south entrance? Volp didn't reply to me, but turned his gaze to Richardson, who was picking cloth out of his teeth. I nodded and patted Richardson's belly. Good boy. Let's go get dessert. Peter, what's that supposed to mean? I turn to Conrad, then point to the hotel. There was a sniper on top of that building's roof, which means there are men inside making sure the sniper doesn't get flanked. Let's go and pay them a visit. Just before I could start giving orders, Richardson snapped his neck to the left and began prowling towards a car hood propped up against a brick wall. Before anyone could say a word, I shushed them and followed Richardson closely. Richardson was easily the most intelligent wild deathclaw I had ever seen. God knows what he'd be capable of with a neural unit. Once we got close enough to the hood, Richardson slipped his claw over the top of it and pulled it just enough towards him so that he could peer inside. He was met with a high-pitched barking. What the fuck, .png? I tap Richardson and point for him to go away. I put my hand on the hood and pull it away from the building. Sitting there staring at me was a little boy who wasn't even 10 and a young dog he was gripping tightly. "Are you alright, son?" I don't know why I asked, he just kept staring at me. I turned to Conrad. "Find me some sweets or a soda or something. It's a kid." Conrad started going from person to person, seeing if they had anything I could use to get the kid to come out. Eventually, Jackal gives up a Nuka-Cola. More correctly, he got a gut punch and Conrad took the cola. He handed the soda to me and I looked back at the kid. "Are you thirsty?" He nodded at me weakly. I showed him the cola and he lit up like a Christmas tree. "Come on out so we can talk and it's all yours." For a few seconds the kid didn't move, but he slowly began crawling out from behind the hood. Once he was out from behind the hood, he put his dog down, who had been leashed to his wrist with a thin rope. I squatted down and popped the cap off the Nuka-Cola and handed it to the boy. "So what's your name, buddy?" He started gulping down the pop, but stopped and wiped his mouth with the sugary drink. "Bradley." I smiled at him and looked at him a tad confused. "What are you doing out here while all these criminals are around, Bradley?" He stopped drinking again to answer me. "I had to get sticks." I smiled and chuckled. "Is that the name of this little guy?" He smiled back at me and did a quick nod. "You're a brave little boy to go get your puppy. Very responsible, too. Where is everyone?" He gulped down the last of the pop, then set the bottle down on the concrete. He turned and pointed at the building across the street. "The Vicky and Vance Casino, huh? Are your parents in there?" He nodded to me and wiped the sweat off his brow. "Well, how about we go see them? Would you like to do that?" "Conrad, take Bradley's puppy. I'll carry him. Let's go see how the people of Prim are faring under NCR protection." When we walked through the doors of the casino, we were met with blinding light, and a dozen voices telling us all to put our hands up at once. We, of course, did not comply. We only waited for the people to notice Bradley. We heard the dropping of a rifle and watched as a man ran forward. I set the boy down and he ran into the man's arms. A few seconds later, a woman came and joined in the love fest. For a whole minute, they were just loving and telling the boy how much they worried. Eventually, they turned off the floodlights. The father looked up to thank us, but only gasped at the realization that we were the Enclave they had heard so much about. Everyone else in the casino realized it too. At this time, Conrad put the dog down and it ran over to the family. The father stood up and approached me. He shook my hand and was about to start talking when one of the people behind him said loudly, "It's the Enclave." The father ignored the person and thanked me for saving his son. Everyone listened to me because I'll only be saying it once. We are the Enclave. Any rumors you heard about us being heartless murderers is a fiction beyond comprehension. But the time for talking is not upon us. We know some of the powder gangers are in the hotel. Stay back and let us do our job. We'll deal with them quickly. When I finished speaking to the citizens, it was decided that a frontal attack on the hotel was a madman's suicide attempt. The remaining powder gangers knew we were here and may have even opened their windows to see us. Whether they were smart enough to cover all the entrances had yet to be seen. Volt, do you think you can do it? There's too many variables for me to give you a definite answer. Conrad and I gave Volt the cut the shit look. If I can't do it, I'll fucking start shooting people. I nod then look towards the front doors as Volt goes into a jog up the roller coaster ramp. So, what is the whole plan? I kinda understand that you'll send Volt through an entrance they aren't protecting, but why not just have all of us go through the door up top? Men in the Legion have been taught since they were old enough to understand words that they were never going to be at any real advantage. Volt understands tactics and strategy at a beginner's level, but he still understands. He's also very bloodthirsty. He'll clear out the upstairs of the building silently and efficiently, then cut a path to the front doors for us. Unlike either of us, he is silent and meticulous. Either of us could probably kill a dozen powder gangers. But would we do it with enough silence to keep a cat sleeping and check enough corners to keep a fallen house standing? I think not. In the few months I knew Conrad, I found out how dangerous he was, more so than anyone I had ever met. Not because of how well he could fight, which I hadn't yet tried finding out, but because how much he soaked up information. When I met Conrad, he was an ignorant vault dweller who didn't know east from west. Now, a budding tactician and squad leader. His reflexes in firefights had gone from an adrenaline-pumped frenzy to a slow-breathing and calculating machine. Conrad had a very nice career ahead of him if I had anything to say about it. While we were waiting for Volt to clear the door for entry, we had been talking about the size of the boss. I was cut off mid-sentence when gunshots rang out from inside the building. I couldn't tell what floor they were coming from, bad perception roll, but I soon found out that it was extremely close. We swung the doors open to find 3 men with their backs to us. They were obviously shooting at someone behind the counter 10 meters in front of them. Conrad didn't wait to start shooting or even try to knock them out. I shot one in the back of the head and he killed the other 2 with his RCW. We waited for a second and called out to Volt. He jumped up and over the counter in an instant. Everyone upstairs is dead, but they've got a shitload of guys in the cafeteria. What's the plan? I looked to Conrad and nodded for him to say something. Strike them while they're trying to fortify the room. They know we're coming, but if we're fast enough, we can kill them all in one fell swoop. Pretty much this meant, let's fucking kill them all. We headed through the hotel in a sprint until Conrad ran past the doorway and people started unloading at him. Talk about a late reaction. So what's the plan now? Just clear the room head first? No. Do you have a grenade? Conrad gives me a weird look. I wasn't even serious. Throw it to me. Conrad tosses me the grenade and I roll for an accuracy and speed check. Roll good on the speed, mediocre on the accuracy. I run past the doorway and toss the grenade in. After the explosion, the first one in was Richardson. More pissed off than what's more pissed off than a deathclaw? Next to follow was Conrad and the recruits. One of the recruits caught a shotgun blast to the chest.
He didn't make it, but he put a spear through the guy's neck before dropping dead right beside him. The room wasn't as filled to the brim as we had once believed, but they were ready for us by the time we had gotten to the room. It lasted only a few seconds, but by the time it was cleared out, 6 powder cucks were dead to our 1. What really was strange was that we found a hostage in the kitchen. While the men were looting the bodies and burning our dead, I went over to talk to him. I didn't know the powder gangers took prisoners. I guess I was just luckier than hell. Mind untying me? I look a few seconds to try and figure some shit out. What's your name? It's Beagle, Deputy Beagle. I scoffed at him before replying, How exactly did you get caught? Where's the sheriff? Well, they ran up on me when I wasn't paying attention. As for the sheriff, they broke in his house and killed him and my sister. I paused to take Beagle's gun, which hadn't been taken away. So you're telling me that they killed your sister and your sister's husband, who is also the sheriff, and you didn't force them to kill you? He looked at me confused for a second. I wonder if your gun is still loaded. So, why'd you shoot him? He was either a traitor or a coward. Both are very dangerous. What'd the powder gangers have? I pilfered through what the powder gangers had. Absolute shit. We took their guns and threw them into a duffel bag. Once we gathered everything worth a damn, we piled all the bodies in the middle of the room and set them ablaze. When we left, we saw that the citizens of Prim were already peering out of the casino. It's done. You can all come out now. People burst out of the casino and began crowding us, asking us questions. All the while, Richardson was trying to pull a leather backpack out from under a destroyed car. The same question kept being repeated until eventually I decided to speak. The NCR no longer occupies the camp outside the town. We commenced an attack on it late in the afternoon yesterday. Also, we have made prisoners out of the surviving NCR soldiers. They will be returned to the Mojave outpost, where they belong. I began pushing my way through the crowd until I was in front of them all. As of now, Prim is under the protection of the Enclave, or as we are better known, the United States of America. I expected some mods to take over the NPCs and start yelling bullshit, but just one of the mods was playing the NPCs. Mod was neutral and didn't give a fuck about the lynch mob. After Prim was secured, we brought in the radio beacons and the Igors were deployed equally through the town. They served as a virtual alarm for hostiles. I went and talked to Nash because he was the trader in town. Unsurprisingly, I found Eddie sitting on one of his tables. Nice spot, Bat. We do a little talking back and forth and he's about to make me pay for the robot. Speech roll, 19. Well, you did get them powder gangers out of town, and you are in charge now. It's yours. Get fucked. Conrad grabs the broken-ass robot off the table and we walk out of the door like we weren't only in there to get the robot. Get the beacons on the highest point of the roller coaster. Conrad, find a shitload of extension cords. We had moved all of our equipment to the hotel and found that if we moved the beacons to the highest point within the maximum distance of their wireless broadcasting, that we could almost double the power in their broadcasting and receiving. Don't ask me how. I rolled a 18 in science. Now we just need some power. Does anybody know where we can get some generators and some fuel? I was outside the hotel, so I was speaking aloud to everyone in earshot. Jackal walked up to my left and started going through his pockets. I don't know where any generators are, but I had a bottle of gasoline for a chainsaw in one of my pockets. The fucking Molotov.Robco. Don't worry about that, I'll figure something else out. He fucking walks away, confused to all hell. Eventually, we settle on using a jury-rigged wind turbine. We planned on powering the whole town for a morale boost. My face when it could only power the radio beacons at like 50% efficiency. By the way, that wasn't a bad science roll. It was just the GM being realistic, saying we'd have to spend more time and money if we wanted to give the town power. At the end of the first day, we had powered the beacons at the minimum efficiency and gotten the radio set up. One ham radio for voice input, 3 beacons for jury-rigged broadcasting, and 1 still broken iBot to process any and all information that would absolutely overload the ham radios. I rolled well on the repair, so the iBot was up and running pretty fast. I spent a few minutes going through its data. It was definitely an Enclave iBot, a combat prototype at that. It was even better than I had recently presumed. It could take the full brunt force of the radio beacons and give us some really good intel on the NCR and boss. The only downside was that the broadcasting power was only strong enough to get out into a 5-mile proximity. The current state of the beacon efficiency was part of the problem, but they weren't even made to broadcast anything. We spent a few days doing random tasks that would entrench our foothold in Prim. We built another turbine on top of the hotel, one on top of the casino, and one for the residential area of Prim. We destroyed the western bridge to the NCR camp after we ransacked it and brought the prisoners across. The bison on top of the hotel was cut down and replaced with a flagpole and an Enclave flag. After we put up the flag, we realized that Prim was not self-sufficient, not in any great deal. The flag might in fact scare away any traders who could bring much needed supplies to Prim. What if we start broadcasting on the radio? You said it is only good enough for a short distance broadcasting. When a trader gets close, they'll hear the radio before they see the flag. If they know the town is open for business, they might just ignore who owns it. Volp had picked up on it fast. He understood what it meant for people to hate him without even understanding his politics. That might work, but we need a good message to send out. We can't just say, "Come all traders, we need your shit." That'd make it seem that we are going through a time of attrition. Conrad walked over to me from his position and began fiddling with his Pip-Boy. "The radius of the beacons are low, sure, but this one isn't." He flipped on New Vegas radio. "If he says on the radio that we took Prim from both the NCR and the Powder Gangers, people will know that it's safe." "Good thinking, Conrad, but the only issue is, how do we get him to tell everyone in the Mojave?" We went silent, but he turned his gaze to the 2 youngest recruits. We already decided that it was a sacrifice worth making. Say if something bad doesn't happen to them. We can just broadcast on our radio until Mr. New Vegas is informed of what happened. I didn't respond to Conrad. I just turned to Volp and nodded. We sent the recruits that day. We gave them laser rifles and a few energy packs. If they did die, they'd take a few down with them. Their orders were to take at least 4 days to make the trek to the Mojave outpost. It only took 2. Make sure people saw them and often say that they were a part of the Enclave. If people asked what they were doing, they'd say after the captain won a decisive victory over the Powder Gangers and NCR at Prim, we were ordered to put the prisoners back into the custody of the NCR. 4 days after we sent the recruits out, we got word from traders that they had seen a few of our men transporting prisoners on the road. We confirmed that it was our men, and when they moved on, they carried the word of our troops wherever they went. Eventually, when the recruits didn't return, we assumed the worst, until Mr. New Vegas came on the radio and started talking about us again. "How are you doing out there, New Vegas? I got some more news for you here. Let me get my newsman fedora. A while ago, I told you that Enclave troops were spotted in Bonnie Springs fighting off an army of snake vipers, or so it goes. Well, they've been spotted again in Prim. Eyewitnesses report that Enclave forces ambushed the NCR camp outside the town and took it within minutes. The next day, the town had its entire population of powder gangers cleared out by the Enclave. If you go by the town, you'll see an Enclave flag flying high over the Bison Steve Hotel. But that's not all, folks. Traders coming from the Mojave outpost say that young Enclave soldiers were transporting a group of NCR prisoners to the outpost. After the soldiers released the troopers, the NCR opened fire on them. I have contesting reports saying the 2 young men were shot to death, and another report saying they successfully got away. I think I can speak for everyone listening when I say I hope those young men are okay, seeing that they were on a humanitarian mission and all. One of the NCR Rangers here on the Strip had this to say about the report. "I don't care if they're little girls or boys who haven't even got hair on their chest. If you wear an E, I will shoot you on sight. There's no mercy for the Enclave scum." I've gotta say, I don't think the Enclave feels all the same about mercy here, people. But I do know that the NCR sure don't like 'em. Let's get back to some tunes. My face when a real player said that in-game to one of the Securitrons. My face when Mr. New Vegas put that on the radio. My face when the salt coming from the NCR is enough to make slugs go extinct.
Over the course of 2 in-game weeks, we attract traders into Prim. Using the traders as prospectors and gatherers, we add another Protectron and a Sentry Bot to our machine ranks. We designated the Sentry Bot as Igor 2.0. He's much more intimidating than the Protectron Igors, but has just as much personality. We knew that at times we wouldn't be able to protect Prim. Our main force might be absent. So we decided to put a man up for sheriff. After the people accepted him, he deputized his 2 brothers. Effectively, they kept people in check while we were busy sending out patrols and scavenging for needed supplies. It wasn't until the deputy from Bonnie Springs came with terrible news did we know that shit had officially hit the fan. Apparently, when the boss and the NCR got to the little town, they didn't take a liking to the people who very openly supported us. They interrogated the sheriff and the mayor. When neither told them anything, they didn't know anything, they executed them for treason. You what, mate? They aren't even citizens.iso. Apparently none of the edgy players understood anything about the political game I had been playing. All of Bonnie Springs took up arms against them, killing 4 players and 2 NPCs. In return, the players killed everyone in the town. Though they didn't target children, they shot anyone they saw fighting, running, or otherwise. One of the Ranger edgelords had a post detailing his sniping of 2 farmers trying to run to Goodsprings. I shit you not. They just massacred an entire town because ew, Enclave supporters. We should get the deputy to the Strip. If we can get him on the radio, New Vegas will turn against the NCR and boss. God damn it, no! I shook my head and kicked a stool. Strength roll of 13. Kicked it a few feet away. There's no way we'd be able to get him there.
Without us, he might get there, but as soon as he opens his mouth, the NCR will silence him or Mr. New Vegas permanently. The deputy had broken down once he had gotten to us. It was truly a sad sight to see him in such a condition. Volt, send your fastest man to Good Springs. Tell them we believe they are next on the enemy's hit list. We want them to evacuate to Prim immediately. I want you to see to it personally that every single trader that comes through Prim hears about what happened to Bonnie Springs. Also, I'll be taking Conrad and Richardson with me on a mission. I need you to see to it that in my absence that every man in Prim has a gun in his hands and knows how to use it. The NCR and boss are going to be coming for us, and after I do what I do, they'll be extra fucking pissed. Me, Conrad, and Richardson set off that night at a light jogging pace. We were working against time, and it had a bone to pick with us. A few hours before sunrise, we met Volt's man on the road. Almost all of Good Springs was with him. Apparently, the main force of the lynch mob would hit Good Springs by dawn. We couldn't stay on the road anymore and risk running into the NCR or boss. Even with Richardson, we would be easy prey to all that plot armor. Getting off the road, we began heading north at paces to surpass the Metal Gear. But really, we went at lightning speeds in comparison to before we had the Igors. We made a week trip in one night. We were south of Sloan when we had a GM random encounter. This encounter was meant to do one of two things: give us something we need, or give us information we want. The random encounter was one all too familiar to myself. A fucking Deathclaw. A Deathclaw burst out from its den and began roaring at us. I did a perception check right away. Maybe I'd get a friend for Richardson. Nope. This guy was gravely injured. Bullet wounds and laser-burnt flesh covered him. He was, of course, on the brink of death, and there was no stopping the end for this big beauty. One thing I did notice, though, that didn't involve its imminent death, was its immense size. It was obviously older than Richardson. It was at least a meter taller, and its arms were longer. It was hands down the biggest Deathclaw I had ever seen. One thing Richardson had going for him is that he was much faster and had more muscle mass. You see, wild Deathclaws ate anything that they could find. While it often consisted of longhorners, Brahmin, or coyotes, the greatest delicacy for any carnivorous animal is human meat. Plenty of fat, plenty of muscle, and plenty of bone marrow. The wild Deathclaw may have eaten a dozen humans in its life. Richardson, double that within a month. That's not including the countless amounts of meat we can't eat that we gave to him. Richardson had been lagging behind for some time. He spotted a carcass and went to check it out. After realizing another Deathclaw had killed the animal, it wasn't recognizable. He ran back to us. The big motherfucker was about to charge us when Richardson got between us. It was clear that Richardson was facing off against an alpha male. My character knew that non-alpha Deathclaws wouldn't dare face an alpha unless mating was on the line. In pack versus pack fights, the two alphas would fight. Either Richardson thought he was the alpha, or he was defying all of his natural programming. Because as soon as the alpha reared up to try and intimidate Richardson, which is what alphas do, Richardson initiated the attack without a second glance. The first few seconds were lightning speed slashes and punches. I could tell from what Richardson was doing, staying low and swinging low, that he wasn't trying to kill the Alpha outright. He was measuring up how much of a threat the Alpha was. Richardson pulled away in an instant and circled the battered Alpha. It was strong. Richardson had allowed the Alpha to hit him a few times on his neck and lower back, where his scales were thickest. Richardson had done some damage of his own, but purposely nothing serious. Just cut and slashed at the Alpha's legs. A few seconds of circling later, and Conrad raises his RCW to start shooting. No, if we do, the beast will charge us and kill us. Richardson can take him down. Richardson stopped in his circling and slashed the ground in front of him, putting huge holes in the earth. One thing you watch out for in the wild are holes like these. It means a deathclaw was sharpening their claws. The Alpha came down on all fours and charged at Richardson. A few feet into its charge and it began limping. The attack Richardson made hadn't been a prodding attack, it was a strategy. Due to the injured legs, the Alpha was slow, even more so for another deathclaw, even more for Richardson. Richardson waited until the very last second to parry the Alpha, in an attempt to keep Richardson out from behind him, which would have meant death. The Alpha turned on its heels. It would have been better off running away. Richardson somehow understood balance. Seems like a strange concept, but Richardson understood that if you leaned forward, it'd be easy to be pushed forward. He also understood the general concept of kinetic energy and momentum. When the Alpha turned, he'd be fighting against all of his own momentum. Timed with a perfect blunt strike of his shoulder, he put the Alpha on its ass. The Alpha didn't have any time to attempt to get up. Richardson was on top of him. Richardson's right leg pinning the Alpha's left leg, and Richardson's left leg dug into the ground for stability. After he cemented his pin on the Alpha, he began to rip apart his abdomen with huge arcing slashes with his claws. His head was down as to force the Alpha to try and push him off with his arm strength, instead of trading blows with him, which the Alpha was far from able. In a last attempt to escape with its life, the Alpha kicked Richardson away with his right leg. The Alpha flipped on its stomach, but before it could push itself off into a sprint, Richardson planted his foot firmly on the back of the Alpha's neck. The Alpha tried once to get up, but was met with Richardson pressing down hard with his talons. The Alpha lay breathing hard under Richardson's tight grip, one eye looking right at Richardson. I wanted to call Richardson off because this was the most unnatural thing I had ever seen Richardson and Deathclaws in general do. But how could I? Richardson had just beat the ever-loving shit out of the second most dangerous beast in the Mojave. The first being himself, of course. Richardson didn't gloat for long to the dying Alpha. A few growls and a few strange noises later, and Richardson was done communicating. He reached down slowly, and the Alpha's flame went out with a deafening crunch. I guess Deathclaw necks are harder to break. A few seconds after killing the Alpha, Richardson reared up high and put his arms into the air, with a truly magnificent roar. But in all honesty, it sounded too much like a literal roar. In all honesty, he may have said war. I had heard that some very intelligent Deathclaws could simulate human speech. They were known to mispronounce W's. Peter, this may be the coolest moment in my entire life. Wait until you see the Enclave. We gave Richardson a few seconds to bask in the sun before I called him over. He gazed at me, then began sniffing at the air. It was unlike him to not do as I say unless he thought there may be a threat. I turned and began surveying the area. Nothing. When I got back to looking at Richardson, he began slowly jogging in the direction the Deathclaw had come from. Let's go see what he's looking for. We watched as Richardson crested a hill, turned his head, and began his descent down towards the unknown. When we followed, Conrad and I looked like we had just seen a gold mine. Richardson wasn't jogging anymore. He had his head close to the ground and sniffing at the quickly thrown together nest and its 7 unborn inhabitants. Holy shit. Conrad, shit can't be holy. Shut the fuck up. We approached the nest and crouched down to look at the eggs. So it turns out, Conrad, Richardson just beat the ever-living shit out of an alpha female. There's possibly 2 options here for us. Either the male was nearby, meaning the female wouldn't mate with Richardson, or Richardson didn't give a fuck and just wanted to kill her. Or he killed her for the eggs. I looked at Richardson and pondered the possibility for a minute. Why? She was obviously going to die soon, whether or not Richardson tore her a new one or not. He knew she wouldn't give up her eggs willingly. It was a mercy killing to save her eggs. I looked at Richardson again and searched his eyes for some deeper plan. It was obvious to me that Richardson was much smarter than he seemed. And he seemed to be one of the smartest Deathclaws ever. Richardson knew the female. Maybe it was his mother, but he knew her nonetheless. Conrad looked at me confused as Richardson leaned in close to listen. He saw her and knew something was wrong. Think about it from the perspective of Richardson. Say this was his mother. Why would she be so hurt and near death in the middle of nowhere? Why would she put her eggs in a thrown-together nest without another Deathclaw in sight? Wherever Richardson's pack was living is ransacked, overrun, destroyed. If I'm right, he knows this and knows he can only preserve his pack by seeing to it that these eggs survive. Sometimes it scares me how smart he is. For a Deathclaw, Richardson finds a way to give me a look of gloom. I must have been dead on the money. After we dumped out Conrad's bag and placed the eggs safely inside, we began a slower pace, north, past Sloan. We always kept the road to our left as a sort of indicator of our location. If we got into a firefight and had to think fast. A little past Sloan, Richardson stopped in his tracks and stared off into the distance across the road. Oh no, Dot Feels. What was apparently a mine of sorts had a single entrance. Beside the entrance was a big construction vehicle, obviously broke down for some time. But in the entrance to the mine were dozens of Deathclaws piled on top of one another like sacks of grain. I looked at Richardson and for some reason expected to see him sobbing. A cold and emotionless gaze was all I received. In this moment I realized that Richardson was so much like me it was scary. He was saved only because he was too young to fight. His entire family, all of his people, slaughtered for what they were. I understood that some would say it must have been done, but for Richardson it was a realization about the world of man. Mercy had been alienated when people gave up on the old world. Luckily, Richardson met me, someone he could align himself with. How did Conrad and I feel? We were just glad Richardson was on our side. Imagine something like him if it was out to kill humanity as a whole. We gave Richardson a minute to take it all in. He'd need to have that fire in his heart for the battle to come. After he had his fill, he turned away and followed our slow pace down the road. Peter, you never did tell me the plan. Is it time to take action against the boss in NCR? We had talked out our plan in PMs because fuck these boss boys know how to metagame. But they were also ignorant. Ever since we started turning people against them, they began to take every action we made very seriously. No, the time for action is not yet upon us, but soon it will be. There is still one more thing to be said before we can face the enemy in force. What do you mean? The time for war is now. We can't just keep playing these games of peekaboo with the enemy. They've slaughtered people openly because they won't hate us. I gritted my teeth, turned on my heel, and hit Conrad as hard as I could. For most, it would send them on their ass. For Conrad, it sent him back a few steps before bumping into Richardson, who stopped them from falling. You don't think I fucking know that? They wiped more than half of the Enclave's population from existence, Conrad. They attacked us mercilessly when we had obviously lost already. After they destroyed the headquarters in Washington, they moved from outpost to outpost and massacred us. When they found our mobile fortress, they destroyed it without even trying to get the children out. They backed my people in a corner and kept fucking shooting. Conrad, I've tried showing you why I do what I do, but let me try to put it into terms anyone would understand. The Enclave is on its last legs. We can't fail again, or humanity is going to spiral into death with the last of us. I have to take every precaution to see to it that we win this. Stop treating things as if they're a game. We will all die, Conrad. Every single man, woman, and child, until they can enslave us. We can't live that life, so they'll drive us into extinction. Conrad stared at me, and I could feel the regret flood over him. He took my issues seriously, but never saw the bigger picture. He thought that this was one of many Enclave victories, ignorant of how much death was brought to my people. I couldn't blame him for being confused or having his fun-loving view, but changing his view would have to be learned with a serious emotional, physical, and intellectual outburst. I'm sorry, Peter. I know I haven't been taking this as seriously as I should. It's hard to see myself on the losing end of a conflict such as this. I can't put myself in your shoes or see what you've seen. I gave Conrad a few seconds, then I patted his shoulder. You've never faced defeat, Conrad. That's the only reason you don't understand. As the Enclave has been reduced to just over a few thousand old men and women, I've learned that our defeat will come with the price of our people as a whole. I hope you never have to face such things. We talked back and forth for some time before Conrad pondered a question. So, what are we doing? I smiled and pointed at a radio station a few miles away. We're going to siege the Black Mountain. Of course, we were doing this for dramatic effect. We had already planned a lot of shit out in PMs. The siege was us putting the lynch mob's king in check. So how will we do it? Vulp said the Black Mountain is infested with mutants. Our friends in the Legion will help us. Few mutants are smart enough to formulate a strategy. One-on-one, they are a huge threat, but with 20 of us and Richardson to make sure they can't get close, they'll be mincemeat. So we set out up a road towards the peak of the mountain. Eventually, we came across a shack and a friendly mutant. Conrad called them green diggers. I suppose it's true then. The Enclave really is in the Mojave. Are you here to wipe us out? Conrad is unaware of the super mutant at Enclave past. We're here to take the mountain. Then you know that most of the mutants won't go without a fight. Just because you have a Deathclaw, you think you can clear out the mountain? At this time, I nod to Conrad, who aims the flare gun in the air and shoots it. The mutant winced at the bright light in the sky. The Legion will be here soon to help us take the mountain. If you have any friends on the mountain you want to save, now's the time. He didn't respond to me. He turned and began sprinting up the road until he was out of sight. So, mutants are just as smart as us? No, very few of them are intelligent. Those who are also very experienced in the wasteland. They know who and who not to fuck with. The entire time, Richardson just scratched his ass. We didn't have to wait long before we spotted a Legion scout peering over a rock a few hundred yards away. A few minutes later, our Centurion friends jogged onto the road we were on from a path in the hills. We expected a dozen or so legionaries. What we got was nearly 40 soldiers. 3 cohorts. Volp's brother walked up to me and gave me a forearm shake. How are you, friend? How is my brother? I am well, and so is he. I see your retinue has grown larger. Yes, since you began gaining notoriety in the wasteland, the NCR has pulled men off the border to send to kill you. Caesar has sent more cohorts into the Mojave. The time to strike the dam is near because of you. I never would have guessed you belonged to the tribe of the Enclave. We've heard stories about your people's power. Obviously cringe shit. Centurion Bro is edgy, but his story is absolutely fantastic once I read his posts. Centurion of the 13th Scouting Legion turned to a Primus Pilus, leading a war party in the Mojave. Guy raided the NCR prison in the beginning of the game to get his cohort out. He successfully attacked and destroyed half of Boulder City while escorting an injured Tribune. Guy is dangerous in his own right. Would not fuck with him. Why have you signaled us, friend? I smiled and pointed at the top of Black Mountain. We will soon begin a frontal attack against the NCR and boss. First, I need to take the mountain and the radio station. When are we to attack? As soon as you think your men will be ready. It's infested with mutants. Centurion Bro turned his head and gave the other Legion player a signal. Legion Bros draw swords, spears, and machetes. A few even have some dank-looking shields. If you are facing the enemies of the Legion, you have our full support. Let's get this done. We begin a steady march up the road until we come across the Generation 1 mutant and a few other mutants. We are no threat to you or the Enclave. We want to leave. Leave then. Once the mutants leave, Centurion Bro asked me why I let them live. Generation 1 mutants can be a deadly adversary or a powerful ally. In the future, we may come across the same mutant and see him as a friend. He nods and we continue up the road until we are attacked by Nightkin. I knew about Nightkin. I knew they were very dangerous. They didn't know about Richardson. As soon as one of them charged at us with its huge sword, Richardson emerged from some bushes and was on top of it before it could blink. In all honesty, visualizing us against the mutants went like this all the way up the mountain. 3 or 4 mutants would charge at us. Richardson would pounce on one and rip it to shreds. The rest of us would dogpile the others until we were able to kill them. Every so often, one of the mutants would swing a rebar club and hit one of the legionaries with a shield. Like this. By the time we got to the top of the mountain, we had suffered 3 deaths and 6 injuries. On the other hand, we had killed 20 mutants. If they attacked us in force, it would have been a real shit fest. After we got past the mutants' shitty shacks, we found the radio station. And we found a big fucking nightkin dressed up as a girl. Peter, what in the name of Uncle Sam is that thing? Some of these mutants are retarded. I look over at the big fucker. Really fucking retarded. The Legion guys look at me while this nightkin is talking to itself. Conrad tosses me a PM and I shit a brick. Do it, bro.jpg. Conrad gives me his RCW and takes the Viper Leader's sword out of my bag. I still had it. Imagine a single-edged European sword, technically a falchion, but isn't as retarded looking. He approaches the big blue fucker and starts talking mad shit. You know, if God made me in his image, he was really fucking around when he made you. Full retard engaged.nuka. Big blue fuck charges at Conrad, swinging wildly. Conrad ducks and rolls under the swings, although he does get a glancing hit on the back of his head. Once he's back up, he's laughing and smiling. Tell me, Peter, is your friend insane? Legion Bro has never met the Conrad that is able to beat the fuck out of armies of men. No, he just really likes fighting. Somewhere out there in the waste is a vault full of people like him. Legion Bro does this. His eyes widen as he looks back at the fighting. It's been a few minutes in the fight, and Big Blue Bitch is getting tired. Instead of swinging wildly and trying to hit Conrad, the big fucker is just trying to catch him. When Conrad knows the fucker can't catch him, he starts putting in some damage. Every time he ducks under a swing or slips out of a grip, he'll hit the fucker as hard as he can in the head. If it was a human, I reckon that it'd be on the ground spazzing out with its brain absolutely destroyed by now. Conrad PMs me some shit to say in-game. Big oof, my dude, Pip-Boy. Conrad, go ahead and finish it. We have work to do. Conrad responds by sidestepping the big blue bitch's next attack to the left. Once he had gotten out of the way, he turned with lightning speed and swung down as fast as he could. He amputated the mutant's arms. Halfway up the forearm, he chopped them clean off. The big fuck went straight into the ground and began yelling in agony. Conrad walked back over to me and took his RCW back. He didn't turn to the mutant, but he aimed his gun at it and just held the trigger until it was out of charge. Why did you have to do that, Vault Dweller? I don't know. Because it was fun to beat the hell out of a big blue nigger. Legion Bros didn't respond. So what is the plan now, Peter? The plan is to bring the people of the Mojave to our side. That's our part here. For you, on the other hand, are you willing to help us face the enemy in the frontal assault? The Legion guys looked at each other, then nodded to me. Good, because we'll need you to get as many men as possible. We can gather 5 more cohorts by nightfall. What's the plan? I smiled and scratched my head. Listen to the radio tonight. You'll know what to do. They didn't wait to talk anymore. They just fucked right off into the hills. Unlike the lynch mob, the Legion Bros played by the rules of NPC communication. They'd have to travel to a specific safe house and contact other cohorts. Lynch mob just magicked in a couple of NPCs whenever they wanted. Boss Scribe Bitch even magically found a group of boss knights wandering around the wasteland. GM gassed their NPCs a lot. So what's our next move? You're gonna leave with Richardson. I want you back to Prim by midday. And back here by midnight. Conrad is mega fucking confused. What are you gonna do? I have to get our plan ready. Strap your backpack to Richardson and run as fast as possible. He just stares at me, still confused. I won't be able to get the plan ready without staying here, and we can't get Volp and the men up here without having one of us getting a message to them pronto. Alright, so what's your part of the plan? Listen to the radio, you'll figure it out. Conrad hesitated but strapped his bag to Richardson and began a running pace down the mountain. I told him to be there by midday. He'd be there before lunch. When Conrad was a few hundred feet away, I sat against the wall and sighed. Time to have my character's willpower break for a little while. When you're in my character's position, sometimes you just gotta cry a little bit. Pull a fury and have a breakdown up for about a half an hour. Once I got myself back together, I walked up to the radio station and made my way inside. Place was a wreck, but the retarded mutants were smart enough not to smash all of the equipment. I spent several hours in-game fixing equipment or connecting unused pieces that were hidden away in the back of the station. Before I started working on the radio's broadcasting strength, it might have been able to get to a fifth of the Mojave. By the time I finished, it could ping off every single radio in New Vegas and broadcast for miles outside of it. 2 hours before sunset, I opened up 4 channels. 3 broadcasting on frequently used public frequencies, and 1 a secured line. Static filled the airwaves as the broadcast came into tune.
Sweet America, hello again. This is President Eden. I'd like to have a chat. The Enclave is back, America. And no, not just on your radio. Right now, Enclave troops are patrolling the Capitol wasteland. These fine men and women, under the command of the stalwart Colonel Augustus Autumn, have one mission: the restoration of American peace and order. But let's hear from the man himself, shall we, America? I give you Colonel Augustus Autumn.
Thank you, Mr. President. People of the Capitol Wasteland, I am Colonel Autumn. By now, you have encountered Enclave troops in your towns, in your settlements. When you see the Enclave, you see the United States government. We are authorized to restore order and civility by any means necessary. Just stay out of the way and let us do our job. Interfere with the Enclave's mission, and you will be dealt with harshly.
Very good, Colonel. Very good. So, there you have it, my darling America. Enclave troops are now in your neighborhoods, in your lives, in your hearts. Together, we'll restore the glory of this great nation. One problem at a time. So remember, America, the Enclave is working around the clock to return this country to greatness. All you need is a little patience, a little faith. Until next time, this is President Eden, signing off.
This same message looped on for an hour. Little by little, the people of the Mojave tuned in and listened patiently. They had heard so much about the Enclave. Was this really all there was, though? A simple looping message? Just as some were beginning to lose interest, an alien voice came through the static. That was the last radio broadcast our president sent out to the people of Washington. 4 years ago. Many of my brothers died as they took up arms against their attackers. Before we could fight back, our president was dead. Before we could get the children away, the colonel was dead. Our punishment for the crimes we committed was absolute destruction and extermination of our people. I hear you asking yourself, what crimes did the Enclave commit? That's simple, my fellow Americans. So simple, in fact, that I think even our enemies will understand. We refused to let America die. We fought against a technological autocracy by trying to free our fellow Americans from their grip. We shielded innocents from the terrors of the waste. On every front we faced our enemies and sacrificed our lives so that Americans may have a chance to survive. We put 100 years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears into a gift to give freely to our fellow Americans. My family gave their lives to see to it that no longer would Americans falter under the oppression of false heroes. You may have heard about the recent attacks, or maybe you haven't. Bonnie Springs and Good Springs are wiped off the map, their inhabitants dead or in hiding with us. Their crimes against the NCR and the Brotherhood of Steel was treason. Treason of the highest caliber. Such a terrible crime that the NCR killed women and children as they fled, tortured captives, and executed the injured and defenseless. Yes, I must say, my fellow Americans, yes. Refusing to take up arms as a slave against those that protect you is surely the greatest crime that could be committed. Refusing to be used as a weapon to destroy freedom truly is a great crime. Yet they won't stop there. Not even there will they stop punishing the treasonous. Now they send an army of murderers to Prim, where we have tried to protect those who could not protect themselves. I know many of you fear for your lives, but do not. I am but a single man, America, and I have caused my greatest enemies to shudder in fear. They do not fear my weapons or my skills. They fear the truth I hold. No, they fear the love I hold for America. Even as I speak, they are trying to plan a way to force the Enclave into submission. Yet they still do not understand that there is no lengths I won't go to see that we, as a country, win this. I pause to take in a deep breath. My people, sons and daughters of America, for too long have we been a broken nation. We've been shunned, oppressed. You've been conquered by those you sought to escape. 200 years ago, the leaders of this great nation asked for time. When we went to war, we knew that only the truest of Americans might survive, and the time we asked for was granted by you. You, the strength in my arm, the holders of my dreams. In a time such as this, I vow this much. The history of these days will be written in blood. Throughout America we will be fighting, by crushing the armies of our enemies, by seizing the weapons they thought to turn against us. We will be fighting for our very existence. As we destroy their forces, they will be given the opportunity to parley and allowed to surrender. But if there are those who would deny us peace, refuse us our rightful place on this earth, then we shall unleash such terrible vengeance that generations yet unborn will cry out in anguish. For many lifetimes we have suffered unbearable hardships, banished by our enemies to die from disease, from famine. They've scarred us, they've weakened us, but that time has passed. For too long have we worked away on empty stomachs, slowly rebuilding our strength, our pride, and our nation, only to be destroyed again by our enemies. But that time has passed. Our forefathers embarked on the greatest journey in the history of all mankind, a quest for freedom. America became that freedom. But in the dawn of a new age, we were struck down by our enemies, into a wasteland. This wasteland. This new world changed us. At first it weakened us, but in fact, we became stronger. In the time you have given the Enclave, we have rebuilt our pride. We have rebuilt our strength, and soon we will rebuild our nation. Those who defy us shall face a swift death or a humble surrender. And for those who disagree with us peacefully, we will give them new insights into our cause. Many of them know now what they have done. So through the kindness only a father can have for a child, the Enclave shall grant them mercy. Yet this is not a day for mercy. Today is a day for unification. Today is the day we demand our freedom. On this day we stand united again. On this day, those driven to divide us will hear our voice. On this day we shall act as one. We shall be ignored no more. From the skies we shall smite the usurpers of our great nation. And though they sweep through our land like the sands of winter, never again will we bow before them. Never again will we fail our people. Never again will we endure their oppression. Never again endure their tyranny. We will strike the enemies of freedom without warning and without mercy, fighting as one hand, one heart, one soul. We will shatter their dreams and haunt their nightmares. We shall drench our families' graves with their blood. And as the last breath tears at their lungs, as we rise from the ashes of our nation, they will know that the twilight of a new age has engulfed them. People of America, now is our time. Throughout the wasteland, listeners turned toward the NCR and Brotherhood of Steel, not as civilians or settlers, but as members of a pack. Their eyes drew a predatory gaze as they stood from their shacks, campfires, and ruined buildings. A nationalist spirit of rebellion was burned into the hearts of almost every listener, and a match was all that was needed to connect the burning hearts, a single action to unite them into a grand inferno against the enemies of the Enclave, against the enemies of America.
As soon as the broadcast ended, I flipped off the radio transmission and smashed the broadcasting equipment with a hammer. After I grabbed my gun and backpack, I booked it outside and was met with the darkness of midnight. Down in the first camp, I could see dozens of lights, easily 50 or more. The lynch mob was coming for me. I jumped from the stairs of the radio station and rolled down a hill for a few seconds before getting back to my feet and sprinting at top speeds. The NCR and boss were marching straight up the road, which meant they'd not find me very soon, and begin a fox hunt. I was back at the foot of the mountain when I heard the yelling and screaming of NCR sharpshooters spotting me and calling out my location to everyone else. They had about 25 players in the lynch mob, and about 50 plus NPCs. Me getting a good enough speed roll to outrun all of them was impossible, but outrunning them was never the plan. I got about halfway between Black Mountain and Sloan before the first lynch mobber was less than 100 feet behind me. I dropped my backpack, turned, and shot the closest fucker in the chest. It killed the fucker, and he raged royally in the ook because it's not fair that he can just turn and shoot at us. I keep running until I came across the quarry and the bodies. Getting to Sloan was impossible. Getting to the quarry was possible. I leapt over the pile of death claws and hit the ground running. After I hit the ground, I sprinted at full speed for about 15 seconds before I realized there was no other exit to the quarry. I stopped in my tracks and turned to see 6 or 7 lynch mobbers coming through the entrance. My only chance of surviving is to solid snake these fuckers. I hip, skip, hop, jump, duck, and dive my way over to the nearest crane. The big machinery hasn't been used since the Great War, or even longer. I look over the crane and get a feel for the stability of it. Spiderboy.aol. I start climbing the crane until I'm about 20 feet up. Now the quarry is filled to the very brim with the lynch mob. Every other faggot is in power armor, and most of the NCR faggots are veteran rangers with a terrible backstory. One guy is literally a one-eyed cripple who is unable to walk, but gets carted around by a trooper because he's a really good shot. I'm sitting here watching them peer around the quarry like a bunch of retards. After a while, they start getting into search groups and start looking for me in the little caves. Bad idea, faggot. You see, there was one or two players that always metagamed me. And they were at the moment just camping the crane, waiting for me to make some sort of post so they can just magically see me, instead of being a good player and roleplay. I roll for accuracy and speed, crit the accuracy and get a 17 on the speed. I jump down from my hiding spot and shoot the first guy in the face. Get slimed. Nickelodeon. The second guy yells out before I shoot him right in the temple. Apparently every motherfucker around here heard a half a second yelp. Everyone fucking closes in on me. Do an emergency search roll on one of the dead guys. He has a frag. I grab it and chuck it behind me. Kill an NPC and initiate John Wick mode. I'm going from support pillar to support pillar, shooting at the closing in horde. So far I've killed 4 of them, and John Wick mode is only slowing them down. Eventually they're close enough to swing at me. They obviously want to take me alive. Enemy does a speed roll. Crits and knocks me out from behind. For about 2 hours in game, I'm knocked right the fuck out. Lynch Mob has taken this time to bitch at one another about how it was their fault that this fascist got this far. Once I'm awake, I get literally bombarded by the edgelords with their snowflake monologues. How could you do this? Why are you so evil? Etc., etc. For about 20 in-game minutes, they are trying to make me feel bad for being my character. Faggots don't get that my character doesn't monologue and bitch like they all do. Eventually the dialogue dies down until I'm just sitting here listening to a couple of faggots, making them feel better about themselves. Eventually Boss Scribe bitch makes her way over. Talked shit non-stop. Looks like we finally caught you. You'll pay for what you've done. Throughout this entire monologue shit show, I've literally not made a single post. They thought I was butthurt. Wrong. What have I done? Bitch spends literally 10 minutes trying to think some shit up. You represent the most hateful and oppressing faction in the wasteland. You've killed people in their name and want to bring war to the Mojave. Too easy. I represent my people. I've killed only to protect my people, and I will bring freedom to the Mojave for my people. Girl stutter types for a while because she's got no clue on how to respond to that. I don't even give her the time of day. Do you believe yourselves to be good people? Do you really think you've accomplished anything by capturing a single robotics technician? They're wadding at Mach speeds. You think that I'm some big bad wolf that'll haunt you in the night, do you? Surely you thought this through. I mean, you do know what you've done, right? Don't you? One of the NCR Rangers steps forward to put in her 2 cents. We've brought an end to your crimes. Really? My crimes? Wasn't it you people that slaughtered an entire town? They started shooting. We had no choice. I laughed in their face. Because you tortured and murdered their mayor. My God. You all really do believe in this false narrative. I giggled and yawned, unscared of them. One of the less cringy boss guys steps in. What are you talking about?
You all really do think you're some kind of heroes? You all really do think you're some kind of heroes. You think that people see you as gods. You fucking fools. You aren't the heroes of this story. Some random boss fag punches me in the gut. I fall to my knees and giggle a little for edge points. That's it. Silence me like you did those children in Bonnie Springs. You aren't heroes. None of you are. Those among you who would have been heroes already left your groups long ago. I got back on my feet and smiled at them. I know it's hard to fathom how far you've fallen. Yet I've always known how detrimental you were to our great nation. It's good to finally see you show your true colors. They all were getting their jimmies rustled bad. A very seldom few among them were rethinking the past events. I scanned through the quarry as I stretched my legs. A few 100 feet away I could see Conrad's blonde hair and pale skin just barely visible over a rock. Good. He was there. Meant he knew what was going down. I gotta say, you did pick a beautiful morning to catch your villain. Honestly, I'd rather be playing baseball than be playing the part of the bad guy with all of you. I looked at my Pip-Boy and saw the time. I gritted my teeth and sighed. Just under an hour before first light. What I wouldn't give to throw a football right now. I gulped and took a deep breath. Without warning, I charged the boss scribe bitch and completely knocked her on her ass. She didn't hesitate to shoot me right in the chest while on her back. I dropped to the ground like a stiff log. All of the lynch mob is what the fucking at this bitch. Well, fuck me. The shot to my chest is bad. Really bad. My muscles are tensed up to slow the bleeding, and I'm trying not to panic or let my adrenaline get to my head. Boss Scribe says this, Ook. Guess I get points for killing the fascist. All the lynch mobbers saying cheesy shit over the Ook and liking each other's posts for about 5 minutes. GM starts typing a post up. As Peter is lying in agony on the ground, all around the quarry, dozens of flares are shot off into the sky, almost all of them coming from the entrance. They all turn to the entrance of the quarry to see Volp and Jackal standing there with almost 100 armed settlers and robots. One of the boss drops his gun and says, "Just a robotics technician." They all get ready to start firing at Volp as they hear a blood-curdling war cry from behind them. Boss Scribe bitch turns just in time to get cut in two from shoulder to hip. When she fell down, a blue vault suit was standing in her place. Attack! The lynch mob turned to find over 100 Legion soldiers, a pissed-off Deathclaw, and the racist vault dweller. The lynch mob didn't have time to get off any shots before the Legion made it a full-out melee. A boss paladin charges at Conrad only to be met by Richardson. Richardson grabbed the power-armored demon by his head and slammed him down. He pinned him with a foot on his pelvis. He let out a huge roar as he leaned down and tore the man in half. He chunked the body at a few NCR fags hiding behind a rock shooting into the fray. I watched idly as Conrad chopped and slashed at everyone and everything around him. For a minute, we had them on their heels, but they had power armor and big fucking guns. Conrad, followed by 3 Legion, got to me and began rallying the troops to protect me. "Goddamn, Conrad, you really got her." He smiled and raised up from behind a dead body to shoot at a few NCR. 2 more Legion ran past the body Conrad was using and clashed with a boss knight who was advancing on us. "Don't worry, Peter. We've got you now. Legion, get some medics over here.
The captain's hurt. I rolled to my side as to clench my chest more tightly. I'm going, Conrad. Once the outside wound is shut, nothing will stop the arteries from killing me in seconds. Conrad looked at me in horror. What the fuck are you talking about? I said it myself. They had no idea what lengths I'd go to. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a boss paladin burst out of the bulk of the fighting and charge us. A few of the Legion countercharged, but were knocked down. Conrad started unloading his RCW, but it didn't do shit. About 5 yards before he could get to Conrad, I saw Jackal jump on the guy's back with a stick of dynamite. The paladin stopped and tried to get Jackal off of him. Jackal was trying to stick it in his power armor's hatch valve. When he figured it wouldn't work, he wrapped his arms around the paladin's neck. It blew the paladin's head clean off, and took half of Jackal with it. The lines of battle were evening out as Volp charged into the fight with the militia he had put together. Using that, he pushed the lynch mob back and regained ground on them. By the time we had secured our troops and the melee was over, half of us were dead while a third of the lynch mob was dead. We had taken out most of their NCR, but the Brotherhood fags all had power armor. Both of our Centurions were fine, but only 30 of the initial 100 Legion were alive. Volp's men had suffered about 20 casualties. The Igors were serving as cannon fodder in our advances on them. There were 150 of us, and 50 of the lynch mob left. Volp and Conrad are trying to talk to me while Centurion bros are holding the line. God, fuck, he's really fucked up. What can we do? We'd need gallons of blood to make sure he didn't die in surgery. This is a battlefield. There's not a surgery gonna happen, you fools. They spend a few minutes bickering back and forth while Richardson is killing the injured lynch mobbers we captured. Was that really your plan, Peter? Get yourself shot? One hell of a signal. I laughed a little and patted Conrad's leg. It wasn't a part of the plan, and it wasn't the signal. But we had no time. I had to wing it. I forced out a last smile, then rolled on my back, releasing the tension in my chest and relaxing my muscles. I'd be dead in just a few seconds. But not before I saw them, like knights of yore on the horizon. Their name, the Enclave. Their mission, to protect the freedoms of any and all Americans. Overhead, a squad of vertibirds swooped over the battlefield and unleashed a tendril of fire upon the lynch mob. As my eyes glazed over, Conrad picked up his sword and held it up high as he ran past our men and charged into the arms of the enemy. For the Enclave! As he clashed into the boss and NCR horde, all of the Legion and the militia followed him. A few seconds later, a dozen Enclave vertibirds landed and lifted off. After each of them deployed a squad of Enclave soldiers. The Enclave troops smashed the lynch mob and joined the melee with Conrad. It was a slaughter. As Enclave troops slaughtered the boss, they yelled out into the morning light, "For Captain Richardson!" Not a single boss or NCR was left alive in the end. But lying peacefully in a seemingly sleepless state was Peter Richardson, direct descendant of the last true president of the United States. After the battle was over, they crowded my body and saluted my corpse. Richardson, Volp, and Conrad mourned as the Legion burned the dead NCR and boss. In one fell swoop, we destroyed 90% of the player base in the roleplay.
Conrad Volp and the Legion would join with the Enclave in arms against the NCR and Boss. The lynch mob would make new characters and try to fight off the Enclave. I didn't make a new character. I had to bring a chapter to an end, and bring a twilight of a new age into the world. Word of my death spread quickly all over the Mojave. A single flame was extinguished by the dirt and mud, but many more took up my mantle. Soon after, the Enclave began a full invasion of the Mojave. The Legion attacked the dam. From the west, the Legate led a huge attack force. From the east, Conrad and Volp led the militia. From the skies, the Enclave tore at any shred of hope the NCR had. The last of the Boss gathered a small group to try and fight off the attackers. Enclave traitors were even found among the weak resistance. Each hung from the neck until dead. 200 Enclave troops were spread throughout the Mojave. In Novak, the citizens came out one by one and surrendered until a few NCR lackeys were left. The town was purged of the NCR terrorists, and the citizens were left in peace. In Westside, Enclave troops were welcomed with open arms. NCR and Boss refugees were dragged out of their hiding places and executed on the spot for high treason against the U.S. government. Up north, a militia patrol discovered a contingent of NCR troopers who had been harassing a mutant settlement, and due to the loss of the dam were now without large support or orders. A single Enclave vertibird was used to send word to the settlement that the Enclave had ejected most of the NCR from the Mojave. These troops were not backed by any army of NCR fodder. The Enclave wanted no quarrel with the mutants, so the envoy left after relaying the message. The NCR remnants were slaughtered without mercy by the mutants, and an Enclave deserter was surrendered to a militia squadron. In the matter of 2 months, most, if not all, of the NCR had been driven out or killed in the Mojave. A few strongholds were still left, but Enclave and Legion forces rallied together for the ensuing battles. Our Centurion friends sieged Forlorn Hope, and within 2 days they had crucified every single soldier within the fort. After Camp Golf was burned to the ground, Conrad and Volp led a full-scale attack on Camp McCarran. They led a 300-man-strong militia, dubbed the New Enclave Army. Within a day, they had dragged out and executed the soldiers, and sold those that surrendered to the Legion. It was chance that it happened, but an Enclave recon team stumbled upon Hidden Valley. An attack force made up of 4 Enclave death squads, 50 militia, 30 Legion, and Conrad attacked the place. The Boss truly knew how it felt to lose their families. In the end, only the children of the Boss were left alive. In accordance to Enclave law, they were not to be harmed, but instead re-educated in the Enclave school system. Only 2 NCR strongholds were left when the dust of the lightning-fast Enclave tactics settled: New Vegas itself and the Mojave Outpost. There was not a chance for either to survive, but a show of power must be made. A simultaneous attack on both would have to occur. Volp led an attack on the outpost with the new Enclave army, while Conrad led 3 Enclave squads in an attack on the NCR at the Strip. They had gravely misread the data and were terribly outnumbered. They suffered several casualties. Even Richardson had been injured. When it seemed that they would all die, the people of Freeside and the Strip revealed themselves. With Enclave armbands and a burning inferno of patriotism, they rose up and attacked the NCR in the streets. The kings led an ambush against the NCR from the back alleys and roofs. Within minutes, the tides of battle turned and the NCR were all but destroyed in the Mojave. In the end, the NCR was crippled, and the boss was no longer an entity in the Mojave. The Legion was given no land or pay for the blood they shed, but a warning. The U.S. government is back. We will allow you to go through the Mojave outpost to the west, where you can expand and enslave at your heart's desire. But you will not lay a hand on any child. You will surrender any and all children you capture to the Enclave. Our side of this agreement is that the Enclave will defend you if there ever is a time when the Legion is pushed back into the Mojave. We will hold this land against the NCR and slaughter our enemies wherever they are found. Do not make yourself one of them. The Legion didn't even try renegotiating this. They expanded west and left the Mojave to the growing Enclave. But what happened to our heroes? Volp was granted his freedom to do as he pleased because of how highly the Enclave spoke of him. He bred and trained dogs in Prim for a few years, until he got word that an old friend in the east had cut out a nice piece of land for himself. Volp rounded up a few other Legion veterans and headed east with his retinue of beasts and men. The Centurion Bros were promoted to tribunes, and were the only 2 Legion men permitted to treat with the Enclave, other than Caesar himself. They were announced to be the greatest politician warriors in the Legion. Most of the Igors lay destroyed in the Battle of the Deathclaw Canyon, but through sheer luck, one of the memory drives was found and installed into any protectrons that were repaired or found. The Enclave rebuilt a Robco factory south of Westside. Hundreds of protectrons were built. Hundreds of Igors now patrol the Mojave. On almost every corner in a settlement, an Igor is stationed. All crime in cities and towns plummet due to this. The strip was kept almost untouched when the Enclave moved in, except for the Lucky 38. Enclave troops assaulted it and killed whatever was inside. After that, all Securitrons were deactivated and scrapped for parts. The kings of Freeside were given the duty to protect it, along with Igor's assistants, and report directly to the governor of the Mojave. The Silver Rush was ransacked by Enclave agents. The owners of the establishment were dragged out and shot for crimes against the United States. Unlike the Brotherhood of Steel, the energy weapons were studied, broken down, and manufactured to be sold to the new Enclave army. Energy weapons sold by the Enclave were reserved for new Enclave army personnel, and almost all ballistic weapons were sold to the people of the Mojave for near to nothing. No longer were Americans helpless to attacks by raiders. The dam was restored to working capacity, and soon it hit 100% efficiency. Enclave scientists replicated a near-perfect purifier, mirroring the one meant to be put to use in the capital wasteland. Tens of thousands of people no longer drank brown, irradiated water. They could smile and drink happily. Enclave biologists replicated a few species of fish, and soon the Colorado River was filled with the edible fish. Even ghouls and mutants drank from the river, and after they drank, they looked to see the Enclave staring at them. The Enclave directed and moved all ghouls and mutants up to Jacobstown, peacefully. That is where they became an independent city-state. But they still hold close ties with the Enclave. So close that, in the case of a few super mutants from the town, some became members of the new Enclave army. They were equipped with special armor to accommodate their large size.
The Deathclaw eggs we found were given to the Enclave, and soon they began breeding a frontline force of intelligent Deathclaws. Some of them could speak a few words. Now we come to our final hero, Conrad, the Vault Dweller who left his home as a conqueror, a champion, and a hero. Now as this story comes to an end, he is a true conqueror, a real champion, and the most renowned hero on the West Coast. But what happened to Conrad? Where has this victory sent him? Will we ever see Conrad again? Conrad left the Mojave, never to be seen in the region again. Some say he traveled the wasteland, destroying anything he deems to be un-American. Others say he traveled to his vault to lead his people to a life of conquest. But in reality, Conrad heads east, where John Henry Eden, the last president, was murdered by usurpers of America. He didn't go alone.